seem to be successful.
Trump said the blockade of Iranian ports will remain in place while efforts to end the war proceed. A former FedEx driver in Texas has been sentenced to death after pleading guilty to killing a 7-year-old girl he abducted from her home while he was delivering a Christmas gift. Tarrant County Judge George Gallagher
said execution procedures shall be determined and supervised by the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Investigators say Tanner Horner accidentally struck Athena Strand with his truck while backing out of the driveway, and that he told investigators he panicked, placed her into his van, and strangled her out of fear she would tell her father what had happened. Investigators are still looking into an incident at Newark Liberty Airport on Sunday. A United Airlines plane hit a tractor-trailer on the New Jersey Turnpike as the plane was coming in for a landing. Here's CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
The plane was landing amid gusty winds on the shortest of Newark's 3 runways.
They felt something over the threshold, and there's a hole in the side of the airplane.
New pictures show some of the damage from the collision, including that hole in the plane and marks on the landing gear, as well as the busted windshield of the truck.
This is CBS News.
It's one of the most successful law and justice programs in television history that continues to uncover the truth. 48 Hours, Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Be prepared with CHIP, free or low-cost healthcare for Pennsylvania kids and teens. From checkups to unexpected bumps and bruises and everything in between, CHIP has you covered. Don't wait until you need it. Be prepared with CHIP. Because every kid deserves quality health care and every parent deserves peace of mind knowing their kids are covered. CHIP. Free or low-cost health care for kids and teens under age 19. Learn more at chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Download to see if you qualify. Not all customers will qualify. Transfer fees may apply. No Albert subscription required. Albert is not a bank. Albert Instant Loans are issued by FinWise Bank, member FDIC. Not an actual client. Terms apply.
Kylie, what's wrong? I just got hit with a car repair bill. I'm behind on rent, and I feel like I can never save any money.
Have you tried the Albert app? Albert is your financial assistant, helping you find ways to save and create custom budgets to actually grow your money. Plus, you can get up to $10,000 for big expenses, or advance up to $1,000 fast when you need cash right away.
Albert can get me up to $10,000?
Exactly. Albert spots you in a pinch and helps you grow your money in the long run.
I'm downloading Albert right now.
Download the Albert app and use promo code BUILD to borrow up to $10,000 for whatever you need. The Albert app helps you budget better and save more money so you reach your financial goals faster. Download the Albert app right now and use promo code BUILD to borrow up to $10,000. Use code BUILD to borrow up to $10,000.
WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Piazza Auto Group Studios, experience the power of one with 8 brands and 25 locations. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Tom Azelby on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Welcome to the late night show here on Philadelphia 1210 WPHT. I am your host, Tom Azelby. I will be with you from 10 p.m. to 1 in the morning. My show produced tonight by Sean Walsh. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
All right. I always think it's, the nighttime show. It's a little different vibe than doing any of the shows in the morning or the afternoon. It's got that nighttime kind of spooky vibe. I kind of call it, like last night I was calling it Misfit Island for anybody out there listening. But we got a good show tonight for you. I'm really excited about it. And I will be here tomorrow night and I will be here Thursday night. And we'll be doing the same show from 10 p.m. to 1 in the morning. And you can listen on Odyssey, the app iHeart. You can stream it, I believe, on YouTube the next couple of nights. And you can find me on Facebook at Tom Azelby, or if you want to find me on X or Instagram, it's the Old Gravy Podcast. You can find me there too, and I post a lot of my stuff up there. But tonight we're going to mix it. We're going to mix it up. We're going to talk about everything and anything. And what I like about the late night show is usually I do a political show. If I'm filling in for someone, I'm doing 4 hours of, what's going on in the world, politics. I do that with the Tom Azelby show on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9. But I like the nighttime show. I kind of want to mix it up a little bit. We'll throw in a little politics. We'll talk a little about life, science, adventure. We're going to cover a lot of different things. But tonight, I have a really big guest, and that guest is Joe Pistone. And if you ever saw the movie Donnie Brasco, it came out in 1997. It was a great movie. I remember seeing it back then. And Al Pacino was in it. And Donnie Brasco was played by Johnny Depp, and what a role he played in that movie too. I'm going to have to ask Joe Pistone about that, but we have Joe tonight. He's going to be joining us. He's coming on early, so don't go away because Joe Pistone is coming up soon. And just to give you a little background, Joe Pistone was an FBI agent, and he infiltrated the New York mob. And I'm not talking he was, getting people to talk to him. He actually went into the mob, and they didn't know he was an FBI agent. He became part of the mob team, the Bonanno family in New York City. High-risk job, dangerous, and he did it for 6 years. 5 or 6 years. He did it from like 1976 to 1981. So that's quite a feat, and we're going to get to talk to him tonight about that. And this is what I recommend. The movie is a movie, and Hollywood always does movies, and that's the movies. But there's a documentary called Inside the American Mob, and it says Inside the American Mob, Donnie Brasco. It came out in 2013. I watched it years ago. I just started watching it again, but that's really and Joe appears throughout it. That's really where you learn what he did, and he takes you through the whole timeline. So it's really good stuff. So another guest tonight is Cynical Publius. He's a retired Army colonel and an attorney. And CP, that's what they call him online. He has a huge following, over 300,000 on X. He's got a big following out there. He's a political social media influencer. I've done a podcast with him. I've had him on 1210 WPHT before. He's got a big brain, and he covers a lot of topics, and he's very, very insightful, and he's one of my favorite guests. So I'm going to have him coming on in the 11 o'clock hour. And then when we get to midnight, I got Brian Parker. And he was a 6th-round draft choice out of Duke in the NFL draft that just occurred. And I think I want to talk to him about, we're not going to get into football. We'll get into a little bit of that. I'm a football fan. I played the game. But I want to talk to him about the impact of getting drafted. I think that's, it's such a big deal for your family, for your friends. Draft day, leading up to the draft, going to the combine. This is really all big stuff, and like it affects everything. And you got to remember, you're a college kid, and you got all this kind of you got a big job, you got a big contract possibly coming. You got to make the team. That's critical. But it's very impactful in your life at this age, and it is to your family too. And I actually have experience with it because my brother got drafted. He was a 10th round draft choice of the Buffalo Bills. But leading up to it, it was exciting. It was nerve-wracking, and you kind of, as a family member and a friend, you travel through that experience with them. And that's what I want to talk to Brian Parker about. And Brian was actually born up in Mount Holly. A big family up there in Mount Holly, the Parker family, and he moved out to Cincinnati as a kid, and he played some big high school football out there, went to Duke, and now he's going to the NFL. Now he's got to make a team, and we're going to be talking about him at midnight, so that's going to be pretty good too. What I learned about Joe Pistone is he's born in Patterson. He was a basketball player, went to Patterson Eastside High School. I have a few connections to Patterson. Maybe I'll talk to Joe Pistone about that, but we have bigger things to talk about than my connections, my peripheral connections to Patterson, New Jersey. Once a booming city, like an industrial city. But we'll talk to Joe because that's where, you always want to know where people come from. Like, this is a guy that infiltrated the mafia in New York City and the mob. And I'm talking like, no, I don't think anyone has ever done what he did. And it brought down a lot of them in the end. Some of them lost their lives in the end once they found out who he was. But for 6 years. But I always like to know, the story is great, but the person that experienced it, like, what was his mettle? Like, what made him tick? How that he could pull something off like that is a great story, and I'm so looking forward to that tonight. Another thing I do want to give you an update. Oh wait, the Sixers are off tonight, and they lost to the Knicks last night, and then the Flyers are not playing tonight, and they're 2 down, so we're not off to a very good start in Philadelphia tonight. But you know what? There's still plenty of games to be played in both hockey and basketball. Here's another item that just caught my eye, and it's Philadelphia news based. Is the Congress is going after Krasner's calling attention to Philadelphia. This guy is very reckless. Now the feds want to investigate Philadelphia, and this is the last thing that Mayor Parker needs because she's actually doing a pretty good job with law enforcement. Based on my police sources in Philadelphia, she's doing a pretty good job. She's got a good commissioner. And now they're finding out that Krasner is playing favorites with illegals, and illegals not just being here illegally, they're here committing crimes. And he's giving them preferential, this is allegedly, he's giving illegals preferential treatment, I guess, in the way the timing of the prosecutions, what he's going to prosecute them with. Because my guess is he's trying to protect them in some way. I didn't dig into it yet, but I find it like the worst thing you can do for the city of Philadelphia is bring any federal attention to your city as the district attorney. You're not helping anyone doing that. Matter of fact, you're going to cost the city money, which quite frankly, they don't have. You just found out that they're going to be taxing your Uber rides and your Lyft rides of dollars to pay for the public educational school system, which is not going to get better. Basically, you're just being taxed to cover the expenses of keeping everybody employed, the administrators and the teachers. That's what the extra tax is for. And they're still not going to have enough because they got a giant hole in the budget. But we're going to go to break. And when we come back, we should have Joe Pistone, the movie that was made about him, Donnie Brasco. We should have him queued up for his interview. So we'll be back after the break.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Entertainment Report. Movie fans have been paying more for the larger screen experience. Here's Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw.
IMAX and sort of premium large format screens have become the most popular and appealing way for customers, because if you're going to leave the home to go see a movie, you might as well see it on a big screen and on a fun screen.
So when the release of the film Avengers Doomsday from Disney and Marvel Studios couldn't secure exclusive access to IMAX screens for its opening weekend in December, Disney announced it's partnering with movie theater chains on a new large format screen certification called Infinity Vision.
Because of the way IMAX tends to work, there can only be one movie on IMAX screens at any time. And so if you have a big movie and it doesn't get IMAX, that's less good for you. And so they're very supportive of trying to make this work.
The new format requires a screen width of at least 50 feet, laser projection, and the 7.1 surround sound system from Dolby Laboratories. We're told about 3 times the number of IMAX venues would meet the standard for the new label. Kara in Moscow, Bloomberg Radio.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/groundadvantage to learn more.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251.
Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-948-7878. That's 800-948-7878.
Pump up your energy savings with the new Bradford White Aerotherm G2, the only hybrid electric heat pump water heater manufactured in America using the finest components from around the world. It's a Bradford White, so it's built to be the best for years of reliable performance, top efficiency, and energy savings. Plus, rebates and tax credits could save you thousands more. How you heat your water matters. So ask your plumbing pro about the Aerotherm heat pump water heater and visit BradfordWhite.com to learn more.
From Broomall to Blackwood, we know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Welcome back to 1210 WPHT in Philadelphia. This is Tom Azelby hosting The Late Show. I'm about to bring my guest on, Joe Pistone, who is Donnie Brasco. That was his identity, and when he was an FBI agent who went undercover into the New York mob, and he had a lot of success, and he put a lot on the line and a lot of risk. Joe Pistone, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
Hey, Joe, it's great to have you. And I want to thank our mutual friend, Bobby, for putting this together. He's a dear friend of mine. And I was telling you before, if you ever ask him a favor, he always seems to get it done for you. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to him.
That's his reputation.
Yeah. So, I was reading your background is from Paterson, New Jersey.
Correct. Yeah.
Born and raised in Paterson. My wife was born in Paterson. And
is that right? What section?
Yeah. She was an infant when she was born, but this will tie into you a little bit. Just, they moved over to Piscataway after, when she was a year. She had an older brother and sister. But I find her dad was a Teamster truck driver his whole life. And he would drive trucks out of Paterson. And the reason I'm bringing it up is, my understanding is you drove a truck, and when they wanted you to first infiltrate or go undercover, it was about all the trucks being hijacked. And is it true that because of you had a little bit of trucking experience, they put you there, or is that's something just I found on the web that might not be true?
No. During my college years, when I was off, I drove an 18-wheeler. So, yeah, I had experience. I drove between Paterson and Chicago, moving freight. So, yeah, I had plenty of experience driving an 18-wheeler.
And I would think your way the first things that you started working on, I'm sure you had other responsibilities in the FBI as an agent, but the mafia in New York, or the mob, was fencing a lot of the hijacked trucks. And it was that was your entry point into the Donnie Brasco persona that you picked up. Is that true?
Well, yes, it is. I had been working undercover, prior to the 6-year one. In fact, I had just come off a 1.5 year undercover operation that operated from from Miami all the way up to Baltimore, and it was a theft ring. And when I back in that time period, there were at least 5-6 hijackings a day in New York City. And when I mean hijacking, I'm talking about tractor trailer with high value loads. And they were all controlled by the mafia. I mean, nothing, no illegal activity happened of any high scale in New York City at that period of time without the mafia being involved or getting a piece of it. I'm talking about the Italian mafia now.
Yep. And that was and a lot of this was going on in like the 1970s into the 1980s, correct?
Yeah, it was the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. Hijackings were big, New York, New Jersey, in around Newark and around the airports. And, we're talking loads, worth $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. So
wow,
it was a business. It was a big business. Yeah, sure was.
So, was the Donnie Brasco name that you had, were you using that for a long time to build credibility as Donnie Brasco, or would a name change from, you went on one assignment to the next, or was that like a consistent name that you used, throughout your career there?
Yeah, up until that operation, I had used that name on several undercover operations, and then of course after that operation ended, any undercover work I did, I had to use a different name. Right.
And this is what I know you've done other interviews, and most people ask you about the actual undercover cases, the crimes. What I'm really interested in, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions along this, I'm going to follow this line of questioning, is I'm interested in the psychological side of what you did and how you did it. But before I do that, I did have one question for you, because I think the documentary that National Geographic did back in 2013, I thought that was excellent. The movie was excellent too, but it is a movie. And if I was to ask you what creative liberty, if there were a few things that you think the movie misportrayed or was like Hollywood doing their thing, what would those things be about the movie? Because a lot of people have seen the movie.
Yeah, I can right off the bat. There was a scene in the movie where I supposedly slapped my wife in an argument. Well, that never happened. That was a bone of contention with me with that scene. That never happened. My wife and I never had counseling with a psychiatrist. That never happened. In the scene where they killed the 3 capos, and they had me sawed off that gentleman's leg with a hacksaw. That never happened. I mean, those guys were killed. But I wasn't sawing off anybody's leg with a hacksaw, and it intimated in the movie that I had a bag worth, with $300,000 in it. That never happened. We did have a lion, though. If you remember that, we did have a lion. That was a legit piece in the movie.
That's interesting, and I like that you kind of shared, because like people are going to hear you tonight and go back and watch the movie, and it won't ruin it for them. They'll be saying, that's Hollywood. So I'm glad you brought that up. But now I'll jump back into the these sharp street guys, the mobsters in New York. You had Lefty and Sonny Black. These are guys within the organization that kind of in the Bonanno family. And they what was it about your personality that got them to buy into you? Like, what do you like? That's a skill. Like, you had to have something, because these guys know other guys. They live on the street. They do these type of deals. They have to have really good instincts. What do you think it was about your personality that got them to buy into you? And it can't be just training by the FBI. You must have had like a natural skill set for it, or maybe it was where you grew up.
Well, you hit it on it. You hit the nail on the head. It's where I grew up. Patterson during that time was pretty rough city. Although it was a great city, it was pretty rough city.
Right.
And I grew up in an all Italian neighborhood, so I knew about the mob. There were individuals in the neighborhood that were mobbed up. In fact, I went to high school with a couple of guys that their fathers were in the mob, so I knew about the mob, and
right.
I knew how to act around these guys. And also, I think another thing that helped me is I never tried or put out there that I was a tough guy. I never changed my personality.
You were consistent.
I maintained, I didn't go from personality A to personality B when I was around these guys. I just maintained who I was, and that was it. And I used my skills from growing up and knowing there are certain conversations that you don't get involved in. And
right.
In the beginning, I used that, like you say, the natural, just my natural instincts. That there were conversations that I walked away from in the beginning, and what that does is, that gives you some credibility. So, and I had good street smarts, and the street smarts came from growing up in Patterson.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Another part of your resume I found that you used that I thought, like, how kind of like you were a niche earner or operator was the mob used to, like, you went in as like part of your persona or decoy that you were a jewel thief from Florida, from Miami.
Right.
Did you think, like, did that attract them too? Like, wow, this is kind of like a specialty product over here. I don't know. Maybe they had plenty of jewel thieves, but I just had that feeling when I was watching the documentary that, wow, a jewel thief, we could probably use one of these guys. So they let you in a little bit closer. Is any truth to that?
Yeah, there's some to it, but the reason I picked a jewel thief is that it's a profession that is not prone to violence, and plus the fact it's all about money.
Right.
That's one of the things that attracts these guys, that you can bring around valuable commodities or you can bring around money. So
yeah,
being a jewel thief, I could bring around diamonds, precious gems, watches, and say that I pulled the job. But whatever you say your profession is, you have to know it. So prior to this operation, I went to school and learned about diamonds and precious gems. I spent time with a friendly jeweler, learned about watches and diamonds, etc. And when I felt I became proficient in that field, that's when I actually started the operation, because you have to know what your profession is, and it has to be one that is, like I say, non-violent, and one that's going to show proceeds. That you have the ability to be an earner, what they say.
Yeah, be an earner. Yeah. I'm sure, like, learning like the jewelry business. I mean, there's like in any business, there's a whole language to it, and there's a whole science to it. So you did, like, how long were you like how long would that take? Is that a 6-week program, or is it a couple of months? Like, how do you get up to speed on stuff like that?
I went to a diamond school for a few months. And then plus the fact, spending time with a friendly jeweler, I got to the point where I could pretty much look at a diamond with, and through the loop and give a good appraisal of it, et cetera. And, being being that it was a government operation, I had the ability to, to get diamonds and precious gems and and other commodities that I said I had stolen, and also being a jewel thief, I could operate alone. I didn't need a gang with me or anything, so that helped out a lot.
Hey Joe, we're going to go to break. I got a few more questions for you. Do you mind sticking with me? We'll go into another segment. Does that work for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go to break. I'm here with Joe Pistone, the real Donnie Brasco. We're going to go to a commercial break, and I got plenty of more questions for Joe Pistone when we get back.
With so much uncertainty in the world today, you may find yourself wondering, is now even the right time to retire?
And so many people are waiting, and those folks are going to be waiting a really long time, I hate to say, because there's no perfect time. The market is always unpredictable and volatile.
Fortunately, Jim Cipriotti has been helping get people to, through, and beyond retirement for over 25 years. Each week, he wants to help give you that freedom to retire. Listen to Freedom to Retire with Jim Cipriotti, Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday afternoons at 5 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Craving real barbecue? Head to Henry's Hots Barbecue in Folsom, New Jersey. Voted Best of South Jersey Barbecue for 14 years. Open Friday through Sunday from noon till 7. Featuring St. Louis-style ribs, beef brisket, burgers, and an all-you-can-eat buffet every Sunday. Dine inside, relax outside, grab takeout, or let Henry's Hots cater your next event with full-service catering. Find them at 1003 Black Horse Pike in Folsom or visit bestbbqsj.com. Henry's Hots Barbecue, real Texas-style barbecue done right.
Breaking news. Go to turnersvillejeep.com for incredible lease deals and special finance rates on a huge selection of Jeeps and Ram trucks. April is the month to save big with huge trade-in offers and giant factory incentives. Head over to turnersvillejeep.com today. Located on Route 42 in Turnersville or online 24/7 at turnersvillejeep.com. That's turnersvillejeep.com.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to install a mailbox.
Let's go.
But there's one critical step before digging.
Wait, what?
Call 811 to have utility companies mark their underground lines. Failure to do so will result in catastrophic gas line damage. This message will not self-destruct, but your yard might if you don't contact 811 before you dig. Visit pa1call.org.
Maybe I should have listened to the home message first.
A well-organized home isn't a luxury, it's a practical upgrade. Closet Factory designs and installs custom storage for closets, pantries, garages, and home offices, built to fit your space and your needs. You'll work with a designer, choose the look, and get professional installation, so the project stays simple and the results last. Start with a free design consultation at closetfactory.com. That's closetfactory.com.
If you're suffering from burning, tingling, or numb feet, you need to pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Thomas Oliver of Oliver Wellness Center. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is actually nerve damage to the feet and legs.
And what are the symptoms?
The major symptoms are pain, numbness, tingling, burning, muscle cramps, coldness in the hands and feet, and problems with balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It is absolutely treatable, and we can get great results.
Call 856-347-0032 today to schedule a nerve damage screening. Your nerve damage screening will tell you if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our innovative treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe there's nothing that can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, and even with amputations. Call 856-347-0032. The first 25 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Call 856-347-0032.
Living here is about more than just the headlines. It's the new restaurant opening in Fishtown. It's the playoff energy at the bank. It's the festivals that make your neighborhood feel like home.
KYW News Radio brings you the pulse of the Delaware Valley. From service journalism that solves problems to stories that celebrate our culture. We cover the life you're actually living.
Authentic, local, factual. KYW News Radio, Philadelphia's most trusted news source.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Free speech lives here. With Dom Giordano, weekdays noon till 3 on Odyssey's #1 talk station, 1210 WPHT.
Welcome back to the Late Night Show here at 1210 WPHT in Philadelphia. I'm with Joe Pistone, the real Donnie Brasco tonight, and just going over a fascinating life he had. Hey, Joe, when I was watching the documentary again, I felt that you were like a promise in the, like when the mob, when you got brought into the mob, they started buying into, you being, part of their part of the family in a way. It felt like you were a young executive who impressed the bosses so much they kept promoting you up the ladder. And my question is, did you expect that to happen?
Well, I mean that was the plan, but I didn't expect it to proceed as fast as it did. I mean, it took me about 7 months, to really get in, and then once I got in, I started to roll with the guys in the Bonanno family that were of importance. So I got close to the captains and the top earners in the family. But I think a lot of it had to do again with because I knew how to act, and they sent I had street smarts, and I could be trusted because, like I said, there were in the beginning there were conversations that being in law enforcement I should have been in there listening to, but I just walked away from them. And they recognize that, they don't say anything, but they recognize, hey, this kid knows that he shouldn't be listening to this conversation. So that helped out a lot. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Joe, I was going to say that was interesting what you just said. So the way you kind of knew when to walk away, I totally get that. In the sense you would start earning even more of their respect. Like, they would say like, this kid gets it or whatever, or this guy gets it. And like you were actually building more trust, like using that kind of discipline.
Yeah, exactly. And, if I was fortunate enough, which I was, to infiltrate to the point that I did, I would get all that information later on anyway, which I did. I mean, and, it's really not coming from any New York background. In other words, I couldn't say to them that, I grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in, the Bronx, because they could check that out.
Right.
So, my background, I was an orphan, and
right.
I spent a lot of time in Florida. I spent a lot of time in California. So, it had to be all on me convincing them that I really was who I was pretending to be. And it worked, where in 5.5 years, I was proposed for membership in a family. I was going to be inducted into the Bonanno family before we terminated the operation. And that's a pretty good feat, being a guy that has no background in New York. He has no, that I couldn't say, hey, I grew up with so-and-so, or I know so-and-so.
Right.
So
that was good cover for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, 5.5 years, 6 years. And, you know, I mean, obviously I've heard about the, you know, the stress that would have on a family. And I think people might not understand, like, you would have to have very limited contact with your family over all those years. Like, kind of frame that out for us. Like, how often could you sneak out of New York? Because I know you had an apartment there and you had a place down in Miami, but how would you, and I know it was difficult based on what I saw in the movie, and I've heard you speak in your own words on the documentary, but how many times could you get over to see the family during this 5 to 6 year operation?
Well, once, before I actually got in, you know, which would have been the first like 6-7 months, I would get home maybe every couple months.
Right.
But then once I got in, you know, it was harder to get away. So that would be like, you know, every 7-8 months I'd get home for you know, a day or two. So, but yeah, it wasn't as frequent as you saw in the movie as far as
right
running over to Jersey, because my family actually lived across country at the time.
Right. That was a tough tour of duty, as they say, from you know, being a dad and a husband. I get that. And I wanted to ask you, at times, did you, like, you're doing it day in and day out, like this is your job, you're going to work, but like, in the sense, you become so much part of your job. Like, at sometimes I read that you didn't know if you were Donnie Brasco or Joe Pistone.
Well, I mean, I always knew why I was there.
Right. And you had to be careful too. I guess the danger of it too might have made you aware.
Yeah, I always knew
Right,
what my job was, and I always knew that I was an FBI agent conducting an investigation. And you know, I get asked a lot of times, did you ever consider changing sides? And the answer is no. I never considered changing sides.
No, I wouldn't. I don't think that's a smart question or a good question to ask you. Obviously, you're an agent and you had a moral compass. You knew exactly what you were doing, and that's why you were so good at it.
Exactly, and I you know, I never veered off my moral compass. So, but it's, you know, it's a tough life. Do I recommend? You know, I do a lot of undercover schools, both domestically and foreign, and you know, the more I see these young guys, and the more I get into it, I don't recommend it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't recommend, you know, getting into the undercover business unless you can go home every night. I don't recommend, you know, any of these long-term operations where you're away from your family for months on end. And look, I was lucky, you know. Being in law enforcement is tough. The divorce rate is high, just regular law enforcement. But as far as an undercover, I mean, mostly everybody that I work with undercover, you know, either has one divorce or 2 or 3 behind them. So it's not a good life for anybody, you know, because you cut yourself off from your whole social sphere, you know. And if you have a family, you cut yourself off from your family. And when you go into deep undercover, which is what I always did, you cut yourself off from your organization, from your family. You know, in deep undercover, you have one person in that organization that you maintain contact with, and that's it. So, like, I spent holidays with these guys. You know, in regular undercover, you normally don't meet the bad guys' wives, kids, families. You don't normally have Christmas dinner with them or birthdays or, I mean, I was a best man at one guy's wedding. So,
right.
And that's the hardest part is getting to know their families. You get to know their kids and everything, and you get to know their wives and their mothers, and and a lot of times they're not involved. I mean, look, they know what the guy's doing. There's nobody in the mob that doesn't know that their son or their brother or their husband is not involved in the mob.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that they condone it. But what are you going to do? You grow up in that environment. Most of these guys, their fathers were mobsters, their brothers, their uncles, their cousins. It's a tough life. Every day you wake up. Is today the day I go to jail, or is today the day I get killed? I mean, it's a hell of a way to wake up every morning, isn't it?
No, Joe, I'm sitting here thinking of all the emotional stuff. Like it's a psychological warfare going on. But I do want to say to the audience, you came out on the other side with the family and your wife, and you kept it all together. So, and you went deep cover, and even with all that, you still came out on the good side. So that says something else about you too, which is not
to interrupt you, but when you work in these cases, you have three people. What I like to say, you have three mistresses that you have to satisfy. Number one, you got to satisfy your family, right? Number two, you got to satisfy the organization that you're working with or for. And number three, you got to satisfy the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, just think of the emotional ride that you have to take there. You got to keep your family together. You gotta satisfy your organization that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then you gotta satisfy the bad guys that you are, who make them believe that you are who you tell them you are.
That's tough stuff.
And and I start off on my classes with, look, everybody can't work undercover. You either have it or you don't have it. You got that 7th sense that you can do it, and and a lot of these young guys, they think it's great when they become into law enforcement. They're going to work undercover because they see it on TV or in the movies. Well, it's not like that, on TV. So that's why a lot of guys get divorced, No, I could see that. And, I had a question, like day to day, when you go back to your apartment alone in New York City, did you ever did you ever go home? Because literally you're working every day at your job as an FBI agent, but pretending to do another job. Did you ever go home at night and say, oh, well, that was an easy day. It was a fun day. Today was kind of interesting. We were sitting around in the social club and the Yankees won. Did you get any of that with the day to day? Where it was you do. Because look, a lot of these guys, even though they're gangsters, thugs, they're not all, some of them are pretty smart guys. And like I would always say, man, if this guy went legit, he'd be a multimillionaire with all, because he's got so many schemes going, but he has to keep them up in the air because he's breaking the law. And, some guys are funny. Some guys have good sense of humors and they make you laugh.
Right.
So, and I think that's another reason why I think I was always successful, is that I never judged anybody. My whole outlook was look, you want to be a gangster, that's fine with me. I got no problem with that. I'm not making you a gangster. You were a gangster before you met me. You're a gangster when I'm here, and you're going to be a gangster in jail, out of jail. So, and I think that showed too that, you know, I had no, I don't know if it's the right word, animosity toward these guys, because it wasn't my problem that they were gangsters.
Right.
My whole concern was gathering evidence or intelligence, you know, to bring you to trial.
Yep. You were doing your job. I was watching the documentary the other night, and I'm going to tell you when I actually got nervous for you watching the documentary, and I'd like you to tell that to the listeners, is when the AB scam was a corruption scam with politicians in Washington, D.C., and they went to meet a bunch of Arabs, I think, on they were set up by the FBI to go talk to the FBI, who were dressed up as Middle Eastern guys to I don't know what the story was, to bribe them. But take it from there that the yacht, and this yacht had been all over the newspapers. I even think Senator McCain from Arizona might have been on this yacht. Can you tell the yacht story? Because when I started seeing this in the documentary, that I was like, oh my God, Joe came so close to getting exposed right there. So if you could tell that story.
Yeah. The FBI owned a yacht that they would take, you know, gangsters out on, and there was a big undercover case where FBI agents were posing as sheiks, and actually they were dealing with politicians, and they actually snared a few politicians. They were paying off politicians for different various reasons. And this yacht was out of Florida, and we used to come to Florida a lot. When I say we, myself and the gangsters, and so, you know, they liked to fish and everything. So I inquired if we could use the yacht, and the captain was an FBI agent who had, you know, the whole crew were FBI agents who had whatever license you need to big boats. So they said and you know, they never had any intention of outing the yacht. So we went out on it and spent a whole day with myself and the gangsters. And a few months later, the abscan operation, the press found out about it, and they wouldn't keep it quiet. So they blew the case. They printed the case, and the name of the boat was the Left Hand. And of course, Lefty Ruggiero being lefty, right? I mean, that's how he got his name, Lefty, because he was left-handed.
Right.
And we were on an airplane, myself and Lefty, going from New York to Florida. And that's when they had magazines on the planes. I don't know if you remember that, but they used to have magazines on the planes. And on the cover, it was either Newsweek or Time. I don't remember which one was a cover of this boat, the Left Hand. And Lefty looks at it and he's reading, and he said, "Donnie, look at this boat." I said, "What about it?" He said, "That's the federal boat we were on." I said, "No, that's no federal boat." He said, "What's the name of it?" And then right on there it says Left Hand.
Oh.
He said, "You think I'd forget that? I'm lefty, left hand." I said, "Left, look, let's see who they arrested." So, they arrested some politicians. And I said, "Look, Left, that's like a month ago or whatever." I said, "Nobody's ever come after us." I said, so and how did you get that boat? So it just so happened that a few months before that, we were out in California, me and him. And I said, "Remember we were out we had dinner, and you bought dinner for two ladies there?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Don't you remember one of them said, 'Hey, if you guys go to Miami, my brother has a boat there, and here's his number." And he said, "No," he said, "I don't really remember that." I said, yeah. But that hung over me for a long time.
I was like, were you able to sleep after that? I would be sleeping with one eye after them noticing that boat.
Well, I was nervous for a few days, and then either he forgot about it or he didn't bring it up too much. Every once in a while he'd bring up the boat, and I say, well, nobody's coming to see me, nobody's coming to arrested us, so we didn't do anything. So
wow, that made I got nervous for you when I watched that in the documentary. Hey Joe, we got to go to a hard break. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I could keep you another 2 hours because you had a fascinating. Go ahead.
Can I pitch something before we go?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm involved in this conference. It's the Southern California Gang Conference that's held in San Diego. I've been involved in it for 15 years, and it's massive. We get like between 700-800 participants every year, and all the money goes to the widows or widowers of fallen police officers. We support the wives or the husbands and the kids. So I want to give a shout out to the Southern California Gang Conference, and if I can give a little shout out to myself here, if anybody wants any Donnie Brasco merch, you can go to joepistonemerch.com and you can buy sweatshirts, coffee mugs. Just go on there and you can buy, a bunch of merch and books and everything. So,
hey, Joe, what I'm going to do, we got to go to break. I want you to tell my producer that because I'm going to promote what you just told me throughout the show and on the show tomorrow night and the night after, because I'm a big fan. And I thank you so much for taking your time to come on 1210 WPHT with me. Thank you, Joe Pistone. We'll go to break. We'll be back after the top of the hour.
Hey, this is Larry Steinitz with Investor Schooling. How many times are you going to listen to my voice before you finally go to investorschooling.com? I can't believe you haven't signed up for a class yet. You're going to learn real estate investing. You're going to learn stock options trading. You're going to learn things about money that you didn't even know existed. Go to investorschooling.com right now. Oh my goodness. This Thursday, investorschooling.com, and take that free class. See you there.
See Joe Conklin at Parks Casino with the City Rhythm Orchestra Thursday, June 18th in a Salute to Summer concert.
It's just an amazing event.
They're playing that summer music, puts you in a fun mood.
Oh, the whole thing is really terrific.
It was awesome. It was funny.
Conklin doing his thing, his best voices, his best shtick.
This show is fantastic.
I sang every word.
That's Conklin and City Rhythm in a Salute to Summer. Coming to Parks Casino 360 Lounge Thursday, June 18th. For tickets, go to joeconklin.com.
joeconklin.com!
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-358-6868. That's 800-358-6868. Again, 800-358-6868.
Mother's Day is coming up fast, and if you're looking for something that truly feels meaningful, think Cozy Jewelers in Newtown Square. Every piece is designed in-house by Paul Cozy. It's family-owned, and you can create something custom just for your mom. And no, custom doesn't mean more expensive. It means giving her something personal she'll truly treasure. Create a lasting memory this Mother's Day. Step up to the 5th C at Cozy Jewelers.
If you're in the Philadelphia area and caring for a loved one with Medicaid, get paid starting today. Freedom Care has already helped over 162,000 families get the care they deserve, with 97% satisfaction and more than 8,000 five-star reviews. If you have Medicaid, you need to hear this. You may qualify to choose a caregiver you already trust, a family member or friend, and they can start getting paid. No agencies, no strangers, just someone you know, helping with meals, medication, bathing, mobility, and more. This service isn't for later, it's for right now. It's 100% free to you through Medicaid, and caregivers get paid right away after their shift. Find out if you qualify today. Call 267-535-2174. That's 267-535-2174. Don't wait. Call 267-535-2174 now. Again, that's 267-535-2174. Freedom Care. Get paid to care starting now.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-491-9914. 800-491-9914. That's 800-491-9914.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief. The best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, Dawn here. Get ready to ride in style this summer with that new or certified luxury vehicle you've been wanting. My friends from Piazza Premium Automobiles are here to assist you in your unique vehicle search. The Piazza Premium family, featuring dealerships across Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. Find your Mercedes, Benz, BMW, Porsche, Infiniti, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, Jaguar, or Land Rover. PiazzaPremiumAutos.com. Piazza, PiazzaPremiumAutos.com. Tell Dawn sent you.
Mother's Day, celebrate her with something truly special. At P.F. Chang's, enjoy a 5-course celebration experience starting at just $89.99. Featuring premium entrees like New York prime strip steak tataki, oolong Chilean sea bass, and lobster and prawn fried rice, plus the bold signature flavors she loves. It's more than a meal. It's a celebration made just for her. Reserve your table now and make Mother's Day unforgettable. Only at P.F. Chang's. Available when you dine in for a limited time only at participating locations. Offer may vary.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Piazza Auto Group Studios, experience the power of one with 8 brands and 25 locations. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Tom Azelby on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Welcome back to 1210 WPHT. This is the Late Show with Tom Azelby. We just got done with Joe Pistone. We got done. I mean, we just had a great interview with him. I'll tell you, I could have went a couple of hours with Joe. What a fascinating life. He's 86 years old. He sounds great. JoePistoneMerch.com. JoePistoneMerch.com. If you want anything there, could make a purchase there for Joe Pistone. That would be great. And the Southern California Gang Conference, and I think that's a foundation that is between law enforcement and trying to solve gang problems. So you can look that up online too, because we wanted to do that for Joe, for coming on and kind of sharing his life. And what a commitment he made as an FBI agent and to the public, breaking up the mob. There's a lot more there. And I had mentioned the documentary that came out in 2013, the Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone, Donnie Brasco. Watch it, and you'll be fascinated what he did. And it's I think it's better than the movie, and the movie was great. If you want a theatrical thing, you can watch the movie. But I really did enjoy him coming on the air with us tonight. So my next guest, Cynical Publius, U.S. Army Colonel, attorney. He's a political influencer on social media. I'm a huge fan. I read his stuff. I quote his stuff. He's someone you should follow right now. So if you're on X, go to Cynical Publius. And I want to welcome the Colonel to the Late Show. Colonel, how are you?
Hey, Tom. Good. How have you been? It's been a while.
I've been good. I hear you're healing up with a knee injury. I heard that. So I heard you're on your way to recovery. Is that true?
Yeah, kind of a pain. Too many times jumping out of airplanes for the Army, and your body gets some wear and tear. And I just had my knee fall apart for no apparent reason. And so I'm on crutches, and I'm actually laying here in my bed as I'm talking to you. It's a little bit of a month-long recovery period to at least get off the crutches, and then much longer after that to get better. But it's getting there. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, that was my first thought when I read about it. When people were giving you medical advice on X, I was thinking, that this has to be military related. We're getting to that age where the parts just start wearing down on us, especially if you were using the parts all the time. But I'm glad to have you. I got quite a few different things. I'm going to kind of hit you from all different angles because I like your opinion. I know you're a deep thinker. You think about these things. And let's kick it off with this. A federal judge just apologized to the would-be assassin Cole Allen, who stormed the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night. What's your thoughts on that?
Did you hear me groan when you said that?
Yeah, I did. I did. And I knew you would.
I posted something about this earlier today. I mean, I really think we have a deep problem in the country. And the analogy I used was, you see these reports from some natural disaster. There's a hurricane somewhere, and some grocery store gets looted, and some mom needs diapers and formula for her babies, and she goes in and she takes, diapers and formula, doesn't pay for it. Is that a crime? Yeah, it's a crime, technically. But I think most people would look at that and say, no, well, that's kind of understandable. And that's really how Democrats view this guy trying to kill the president. It's like, yeah, it's a crime, but I kind of get it. I mean, we're in such a bad place. And the fact that this magistrate judge, who's not even really a judge, was apologetic to this guy because they put him on a suicide watch after he went on a death mission by his own admission. It's just bonkers. It's sending the signal that, hey, guy, we love you. You're not all that bad. We kind of get it. I mean, I know that that's not explicitly said, but that's the hidden message. That's where they're at.
And there's a lot of that messaging today, even with the Luigi guy shooting the CEO of the healthcare. Like, it's kind of like, well, these people are bringing it on themselves. So, hey, you shouldn't do it, but it's totally understandable. That's cultural rot right there, no doubt.
Exactly right. Cultural rot is precisely what it is. I mean, the idea that it's okay to kill a politician if you disagree with him strongly enough. That's not American. It's something out of the pages of World War I European history. I mean, it's not who we are as a country, or it's not who we ought to be. And it's stunning to me that, it's just, and there's people who are not saying anything, right? There's folks who have enough good sense to not go online and say, hey, I wish you'd hit them, because they know they might lose their jobs. But There's quite a few people who do think that. And, I just look back on the years and I've been alive, and the presidents that I served under, guys like Bill Clinton, guys like Barack Obama, who politically I hated. I thought they were incredibly destructive to the country. But at no time would I have ever excused someone trying to kill them, or even I'm at a loss for words. You can hear me babbling here. It's astonishing to me that people today think like this. It's so alien. It's so foreign. It just doesn't make sense as Americans. And I honestly don't know how we get out of it.
People can say, crazy things, like if they're within a small group of people that know them or whatever. Even that's a stretch. But I'm just saying, these people will go out and say it publicly now. And it's, maybe we'll get into it, because the cultural impression on people now about Donald Trump is definite. Like it's obvious that it's influencing people to do very nefarious things. That's dark, dangerous things. It's continuous. It's been going on to 2016. And I'm sure when they look into this Cole Allen, there'll be something, someone will know something that he was a little bit off. Because I went through that the other day. They were all a little bit off. So I would say they're more open to hearing this and doing something awful. But we'll move on. We'll move off of. Go ahead.
Can I say one more thing on this, though? I mean, if you look at what Cole Allen was saying on his social media accounts, on Blue Sky mostly, it was just mainstream thinking for most progressives in the United States today. He wasn't the Unabomber. He didn't have some crazy manifesto. If you read his short manifesto, it was basically repeating the things that you see over and over and over again in the news, on talk shows, and social media. So my point is that there's not this great ideological leap you have to take before you're at the point of wanting to kill someone. We've reached a point where the mainstream thought is sufficient to push someone to that level. It's scary.
Yeah. And, I even wonder, there's a lot of people on the spectrum now, too, that, they I don't know. And I don't want to make an excuse for any sociopath that goes out and does something crazy. But I'm just saying, there are people that interpret these impulses that Trump's a fascist, he's a Nazi, he's a racist, he's a pedophile, and he's going to ruin everything for us. And there are people that their brains don't function normally, and they absorb this and do some pretty wacky stuff. But let's move on. Let's get to my next subject, because I have so much for you, Colonel. Okay, I am not a fan of Tom Massey. Okay, I'm very
neither am I.
In my social circles, I'm very public about my contempt for him. And the reason the word is now turned to contempt, you can be principled and you can say, I'm not voting for this because it's really against what I believe in. But he seems to always take it to the next step. And that next step is going to the media, criticizing the team. He's not a team player. That always frustrates me, because sometimes you got to be a team player, because life's about percentages. But I'll let you comment on Tom Massey and his connection now with this guy, Ro Khanna, the California congressman, he calls himself a progressive capitalist, whatever that is. But you can address all this relationship here and those two individuals.
Yeah, well, let me start with the Ro Khanna, Tom Massey connection. I recently retired from the practice of law like a month ago. But while I was doing it, I was a Silicon Valley startup and mergers and acquisitions attorney. And Ro Khanna is very, very typical of what you see out there, that sort of mix of what's ostensibly conservative economic policies with very progressive social policies. that's kind of the tech guy, the tech bro standard of politics out there. And that's the district that he represents. So it doesn't surprise me that he thinks like he does, but he's masquerading his true intent. I don't believe for a moment that this guy is a moderate in any way, shape, or form, any more than I believe that the new Virginia and New Jersey governors were moderates, which we all know they weren't. He's a classic mainline Democrat, bordering on Marxist with stuff like universal basic income and the ways that he thinks that the government can do things that it's not capable of doing. So, but he's also someone who people view as a centrist. And he's someone that a lot of early pundits suggested might be a presidential candidate, although I think maybe he's kind of screwed that up a little bit. But, he hung on to the whole idea that, Epstein stuff is being suppressed. He's grabbed a hold of the most inflammatory stuff that's out there, and he's decided to partner with the very extreme people in the anti-Trump crowd who are ostensibly conservative along the same lines, because I think he sees a coalition there that's potentially, going to get him elected to higher office. The coalition being mainstream left, disillusioned MAGAs. That's what at least what I think he thinks. And so Massey fits perfectly into that scheme. I know Massey is rated highly by different groups that judge Congress people based on their voting record, and he's judged highly as being very conservative. But the fact of the matter is the guy actually never pushes through any initiatives of his own. He will go out of his way to undermine initiatives that are good enough. I mean, that's the art of politics, is the good enough.
Yeah, good enough.
You're never going to get, you're never going to get perfect. But I don't think, this is my personal opinion, I don't think the guy really wants perfect. I think he's a narcissist. I think he's a grandstander. I think he wants the attention. He wants the campaign contributions. He likes the reputation of being a quote-unquote maverick, just like John McCain was. But he's not doing anything to further conservatism in any sort of practical manner whatsoever. He talks the talk. He doesn't walk the walk. So I have real disdain for him. And the fact that he would partner with Ro Khanna on anything, to me, shows that this isn't about ideology. It's about his personal reputation, his power base, his ability to influence things. And he's not happy with the fact that Trump is singled him out as someone who needs to be kicked out in the primary. He's not looking out for the welfare of the conservative cause. He's looking out for the welfare of Thomas Massey, in my opinion.
I agree with you 100%. There's something very odd about him. I know he went to MIT. I find him very odd, and maybe I'm being a little bit too personal about him, but there is something odd. And I'll even say this, and a lot of people on the right might say, oh, there was nothing wrong with it. As a congressman, even, and believe me, I'm a Second Amendment person. But when he sent the family pick out with the AR-15s, and I know I'm being a little nitpicking here, but my first reaction was like, you know what? That's an odd thing to send out. Did you ever see that picture?
No. What did he say? Oh, him and his family all carrying rifles? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. And,
I've seen that, yeah.
I thought when I first saw it, and I'm nitpicking here, or maybe I'm overjudging him, but that's what I do. I judge everything. I saw that picture and I said, like, even families that like to go shooting, which is great. I don't know if you're a cop. I just didn't. I was just like, really? That's the type of picture. So I do think there's something off about him. So we'll. But let me ask you.
It was theatrical.
Yeah. That's it.
It was theatrical, and everything about that guy is theatrical.
Yeah, the new haircut. And the new haircut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to. The guy did lose his wife. I mean, which could be as we all know, it's a horrible experience.
Yeah, no, I get it. And he got remarried, I believe, now.
He did, yeah. So, I mean, there's certainly emotional stuff the guy's going through.
No, I get it. And she probably talked him into the haircut. So we'll cut him a break on that. It's nice to be a little bit fair and balanced. The haircut's fine. You get a nice younger girlfriend, and she might change her haircut, and guys are going to do it. I totally get that. The progressive Ro Khanna, the California congressman, did he ever, and I need to be educated on him a little bit more now, but I've been seeing his clips and I've been seeing him talking. Did he work in the private sector in Silicon Valley, or is he just a Democrat that represents Silicon Valley?
I believe he did do some venture capital stuff, but I really don't know for sure. I'm sitting here with my computer. I'll look it up while we're talking. But I mean, he certainly speaks the speak out there. He was actually born in Philly. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a
Looking
Bucks
at his
County
Wikipedia
guy.
page right now. Yeah.
He's Bucks County. But here's the next topic, and it's a hot topic, but I don't mind talking about it. There is a wing of MAGA, which is the anti-Israel. They can't get enough of Epstein, which has totally not helped the Trump movement, even though it was nonsense about Trump. I think me and you had introduced the word to me, the woke right, where woe is me, everything is deep, dark, conspiracy. There's nothing we can do about it. I do have a feeling that they're gaining steam, and you kind of related that back to Tom Massey, kind of now colluding with people on the left who have progressive Marxist ideas. So maybe you want to take a shot at that mouthful.
Yeah, just to go back to Canada, just looking at his Wikipedia page, he is a corporate lawyer in Silicon Valley, like I was.
Oh, okay.
That's his background, which does give you a lot of good business knowledge.
Yeah,
anyway.
I get it.
I mean, the talk that the thing you're talking about is not just Massey. It's a lot of stuff that's with right-wing or ostensibly right-wing influencers online, like Candace Owens, like Tucker Carlson. Folks who at one point or another were very strong advocates for Donald Trump who just kind of flipped. And the only thing that I can really find in common with these folks, other than their hatred for Trump, is that really deep, dark conspiracy theory like thoughts about Israel and American Jews in general. The minute you start talking about Jewish bankers controlling things, I'm going to start questioning your motives, because that's the oldest trope in the books. And, just because people are successful in life doesn't mean they're controlling your life. And all of these folks sort of simultaneously have gone over to this. And what's really weird, and I'm so hyper involved in social media that I sometimes I lose touch about what the average person actually is saying.
That makes sense.
All these influencers, like almost in unison at one time, have said, we have to have partnerships with the left, this division between the left and the right. You can't keep going on. And that's sort of, Massey's not said that, but his actions sort of support that. And again, Massey's not someone who's very fond of America's involvement with Israel. So I think they've made Israel sort of the centerpiece of what they're trying to do. And there's so many wild theories. There's people out there saying, hey, it was all a false flag operation from the start. Tucker Carlson has always been this guy. It was all, it was a plant. They've been building to this. I don't buy that. I think that sort of conspiracy thinking is as bad as the stuff that they're doing. But there's this nexus of power in America right now that revolves around outrage. And outrage generates clicks, and clicks generate money. And it really worries me, because it's just very difficult to tell how influential these people actually are. Yeah, they'll have 2-3 million followers online, but what does it actually translate to in practicality? Do people even know who Candace Owens is? Do they know, what Tucker Carlson has done since he left Fox? I don't know, Tom. It scares me that these folks may have much more influence than we realize, and are paving the way for big defeats for the right in the midterms and in the presidential election. But I think it's really hard to know if their influence is really hitting people where they think it is. Maybe that's not the answer you wanted, but it's a little bit hard to follow what's actually happening out there.
I want to, if you can, let's go into the next segment after this break. And a lot of these people have low trust, and I understand that. I call it low trust quotient, just because they've seen how everything, they've been lied to about a lot of things, but now they're so wrapped up in not trusting anything that everything is nefarious, deep, dark, and it's really bad. So I think that's definitely a part of it. And when they get fed through social media with all this, they're really buying into it. But let's go to break. We'll be back with the Colonel, and we got a lot more news to cover of the week, what's going on, and we'll be back after this.
Hey, it's Rich Zioli. Let me tell you about my buddy, Dr. Mike Veneria. Great guy. Whether you're looking for pediatric, general, cosmetic, or implant dentistry, look no further. Dr. Veneria and his award-winning team, they have your whole family covered, just like mine. Dr. Veneria's office exceeds CDC guidelines and has always maintained the strictest infection control with centralized UV sterilization of airflow to ensure your safety. Locations right over the bridge in Cinnaminson and Woodbury, 856-786-2020 or veneriadental.com.
Do you think that banking is boring? At PNC, we know that meeting the banking needs of the community is anything but boring. That's why PNC Bank geared up this year and introduced the mobile branch across the region to bring banking services to underserved neighborhoods. And long before that, PNC Community Development Banking was leading the way in investing in the economic health of our neighborhoods. To see the brilliant results that boring banking can deliver for you, stop into any PNC branch right here in the greater Philadelphia community. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC.
With so much uncertainty in the world today, you may find yourself wondering, is now even the right time to retire?
And so many people are waiting, and those folks are going to be waiting a really long time, I hate to say, because there's no perfect time. The market is always unpredictable and volatile.
Fortunately, Jim Cipriotti has been helping get people to, through, and beyond retirement for over 25 years. And each week, he wants to help give you that freedom to retire. Listen to Freedom to Retire with Jim Cipriotti, Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday afternoons at 5 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Hey, this is Larry Steinhaus with Investor Schooling. Listen, I know sometimes you worry about coming to see me because you don't want to invest in real estate, because you don't want to deal with toilets, trash, or tenants. I'm going to teach you a way that you don't have to deal with toilets, trash, or tenants, or even own any real estate and invest in real estate at the same time. You want to learn this, so go to investorschooling.com. That's investorschooling.com and take a complimentary class this Thursday, and I promise you, no toilets, no trash, no tenants.
A well-organized home isn't a luxury, it's a practical upgrade. Closet Factory designs and installs custom storage for closets, pantries, garages, and home offices, built to fit your space and your needs. You'll work with a designer, choose the look, and get professional installation, so the project stays simple and the results last. Start with a free design consultation at closetfactory.com. That's closetfactory.com.
Now, you can listen to Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the iHeartRadio app.
Welcome back to 1210 WPHT. This is the Late Show with Tom Azelby, and I'm here with Cynical Publius, and we're talking about the news of the day, the news of the week, and what's going on in the world. And I want to give one more plug for my last guest, JoePistoneMerch.com. The Donnie Brasco. I was so happy to have him on as a guest, so I definitely want to give him a plug there. Colonel, I just want to go back to Tucker just for a minute. I used to, I was a fan, and
me too.
I always thought he was a bit of a hyperventilator. Like he'd get really excited about something. I'd be like, you know what, chill. But I thought it was kind of entertaining. That was his personality, where he'd get worked up over something, like when they killed General Soleimani, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Tucker was like, it's going to be World War III. The world's over. Boom. Trump took him out. Nothing. We all moved on. I do find, and I wanted to ask you, he seems to have a religious fervor now, there's some type of religious spiritual faith that's driving his worldview right now. And he kind of expresses it. Have you noticed that?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's this famous piece he did, or I forget where it was. It was on one of his channels, where he talked about being attacked by demons at night.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm not suggesting that can't happen. I'm a religious person too, but that seems to have inspired him in a lot of ways. But this sort of relates back to what you said just before break, which is that we've all been exposed to so many conspiracy theories that ended up being true that it's hard to trust anything anymore. I mean, this is why people are looking at the Artemis, voyage to the moon, saying, "Oh, that's all fake," because they have good reason to doubt things. And I think Tucker's got that problem. But my personal theory on Tucker is that he's always been a bit of a fringe lunatic, but his producers have always sort of protected him against himself. And I think when he went solo, when he went out and said, okay, I'm going to have my own studio, do my own thing, have my own distribution means, he lost that protection of other people saying, hey, you know what, Tucker, maybe that's not the best thing to be talking about. And now he's just out there on his own with, no boundaries. And so I think we're seeing the real Tucker for the first time.
All right, that's an interesting perspective. All right, we'll get to our next topic, and we'll get through this really quick. I heard you mention modern Stoicism. You didn't know that everyone was kind of getting into reading the ancient Stoic quotes from Marcus Aurelius. Now, you'll find this is kind of funny. And I'm someone I'm one of the people that got into it a little bit. Not from a religious standpoint, I'm Catholic, but, some of the quotes are great. And you were saying that you are unfamiliar with this, but I'll give you, there's this thing called, it's like the Daily Stoic. And every morning it gives you a statement by a Stoic, like Marcus Aurelius, and I hope I'm not butchering his name. And then whatever his quote is, if you don't understand it, they kind of put a few lines underneath it explaining what the quote is if you don't get it on the first one. Have you read any of are you familiar at all with that book or any of these? I'm sure you're familiar with some of these Stoic quotes. Like when you arise in the morning.
I really wasn't. I'm not. And it's kind of embarrassing to be honest, Tom. Can you hear me okay? It feels like I'm breaking up. Am I okay?
No, you're fine. I can hear you perfectly. So I'm gonna read you one, and then I actually have a funny story about it. It says, when you rise in the morning, think of what precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Then that's Marcus Aurelius. That's what he wrote in his diary. Then you read the interpretation below it. Most of us wake up immediately and start worrying about what we have to do. Marcus says, flip that. Before your feet even hit the floor, just remember you woke up at all. That alone is pretty wild. So they're pretty interesting and they're pretty good. Now, the guy who put this book together, his name's Ryan Holiday, and he's kind of like one of the leaders in this whole Stoic philosophy that, the modern age people were adopting. And I don't know if it's still pretty strong, but it was 3 or 4 years ago. But of course, I started reading his other books because I liked his daily planner because it only gave these quotes and the interpretations. Then he started using Donald Trump as all his examples of what not to do in life. So it's not very Stoic of him, right? Like he's picking an individual. He's telling you to be cool and generous and whatever. And next thing you knew, he's using Donald Trump as his whipping boy. So, of course, I wrote him an email and I got into an email war with him. And then I pretty much stopped reading his books. So I thought I'd share that with you because you weren't familiar with it. But that's a little sampling for you.
Well, this guy Ryan, that's exactly how I found out about it because of that whole controversy about him talking badly about Trump, which wasn't very Stoic, and Trump's daughter. And so I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds like this whole movement I don't even know about. Let me read up on it. And I did. And the thing that I don't want to insult you or anyone, but the thing that struck me was it was basically the entire movement rotates around worry about things that you can control and don't worry about things you can't control, which to me is such a basic component of living a modern life that I just don't know how it became like an entire ideology that has just like millions of dollars worth of industry around it. Good for this guy Ryan for tapping into that. But, one of my followers on X saw my comments on it, and I'll paraphrase, it basically said, yeah, it's a thing. Find ancient wisdom, repackage it with new age terms, sell it like your own. And to me, that's kind of what's going on with this Stoicism revival. A lot of times things like this just feel like common sense to me. And that's one of the examples. And, I was kind of just looking at it from the outside, and I was, again, a little bit embarrassed I didn't know about the movement in the first place.
Yeah, and if you do look at it, it all really comes from like biblical teachings, and
Yeah.
a lot of it comes from, and then they go into like Hindu and stuff, but it's very biblical. But like anything, everyone's always looking for a shortcut. So that's why people were getting into it. That's my view. Listen, I understand how people got into it. Like you start reading it and it's easy to make sense of. It's like probably a dumbing down of biblical teaching. So the next thing I saw you post today, and for a minute there, I thought he did it, that Elon was going to take over Spirit Airlines. And that was a spoof, I heard.
Well, it wasn't a spoof. It was just someone suggesting that it might be possible. They said, quote unquote, we heard rumors, and I forget who this person was who said this, but I reposted what they said because I thought it was really profound. I mean, Elon has gone to great lengths to shake up so many industries. I mean, what if he could transform the experience of getting on and off a plane? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to say I wasn't this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. I wasn't I did a little research how that came out because I was so hoping it was true, but I wasn't really talking about the post of the spoof. I was talking about that. I wanted to ask you, and now I'm going to let you finish your thought on that. How great would that have been if he was buying Spirit Airlines? But continue.
Oh, I mean, it would be amazing. It would be amazing in ways that you and I probably can't imagine because we're not Elon Musk. But, I mean, the way that he could integrate this with his robot taxis, just all of the things that we take for granted about flying, about, standby and waiting lists and miles, all of that could be transformed into a much more user-friendly experience, just in terms of the administrative aspects of getting on and off a plane, let alone how he might revolutionize, the interior of a plane, as far as how we're seated, what we enjoy when we get on air, which isn't much. The entire industry is ripe for transformation, and who better to figure out how to do that than Elon Musk?
I totally agree with you, and it would start with how you load and unload a plane. I've seen videos on how they should do it. They actually, have like animation videos on the way it should be done. It would change your experience. Never mind how Elon, like you said, we can't even figure out what degree he would take it to, but it would be really good. And hopefully someday he does dip his toe into that area, into the airline industry. Colonel, can you stay with me? We got to take a break. I got a few more things to go over with you. Okay,
Absolutely.
We're going to go to break.
Pleasure,
I'll be back with Cynical Publius. Look him up on X right now. We'll be back after the break.
Living here is about more than just the headlines. It's the new restaurant opening in Fishtown. It's the playoff energy at the bank. It's the festivals that make your neighborhood feel like home.
KYW News Radio brings you the pulse of the Delaware Valley. From service journalism that solves problems to stories that celebrate our culture. We cover the life you're actually living.
Authentic, local, factual. KYW News Radio, Philadelphia's most trusted news source.
Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? The IRS won't quit until they get your money. Here's great news, fresh from those in the know. Major changes have happened at the IRS. If you owe more than $10,000, you may be eligible for a 99% reduction of what you owe. Haven't filed a return for a while? Their happy clients are talking.
The IRS was going to levy my bank account, but Guardian was able to prevent that and fix all my IRS issues. Thanks again, Guardian Tax.
Need relief from crushing tax debt? The IRS now has special programs. Guardian Tax knows all about them. Personal or business, this is the fresh new brick you've been hoping for.
We aren't the company you call when you need a hug because you're scared of the IRS. Guardian Tax is the company that wins when you need it most.
Guardian Tax Service is really great to work with. They really help me out. I'd recommend them highly.
Call now for a free confidential consultation. 800-499-1424. 800-499-1424. 800-499-1424.
See Joe Conklin at Parks Casino with the City Rhythm Orchestra Thursday, June 18th in a Salute to Summer concert. For tickets, go to joeconklin.com.
JoeConklin.com! Don't miss the Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
D&K Appliances is a family-owned and operated business for 3 generations located in Newtown Square and Flowertown. D&K Appliances offers one-stop shopping, providing delivery, installation, and service of top brands like GE, Thermador, Wolf, Bosch, Speed Queen, KitchenAid, and Whirlpool for your kitchen or laundry. D&K Appliance sales associates are industry experts, supporting customers every step of the way. Visit D&K Appliances, the dependable difference. Newtown Square and Flowertown showrooms, or visit DKAppliances.com.
Be sure to follow Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
Welcome back to the Late Show in Philadelphia on 1210 WPHT. I'm here with Cynical Publius, and we're covering a lot of different subjects that are going on in the world and the personalities behind them. Colonel, my next one for you, and I read your article on this, and you can share with the audience. Maybe it was just posted online. It was active duty military and social media. Was that just a post online, or that led to one of the published?
No, that was just on X. X has been trying to do this thing where they want to promote their what they call articles content. I think they're trying to make themselves kind of a Substack. So I've been trying it out. So that's actually only on X.
Well, that's like perfect for you. What do you do? That kind of article thing like Substack? That's new to me. That's kind of interesting. What do you think about it?
Well, no, I think it's great. I mean, I think Elon's trying to do so many things with the X platform. What it's gotten people riled up, which is an entirely different subject, is the monetization policies on X. And I'll be honest, X can be fairly lucrative if you have a large following and you know how to do it.
Yeah.
So you may say to me, hey, we want you to try articles. I've been trying it, and we'll see how it goes. But I know that's not what you wanted to talk about. You wanted to talk about the article itself, though, right? You want me to comment on that?
Yeah, I did, but I was just curious. But you gave enough insight that now I understand it. When I see like an article pop up, I knew that's kind of like a feature direction that they're going into. Yeah, so the active duty military and social media, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like when their side did it, we didn't like it. When our side did it, but I thought you explained it well. So why don't you just kind of frame it for the audience?
Well, let me tell you, the Army that I joined in 1985, my very first unit that I was part of as a second lieutenant, my battalion commander discouraged me from voting. He felt that even the appearance of going into a voting booth and voting or filing an absentee ballot created an appearance of politicization for military, which he thought was inappropriate. Now, I don't agree with that. I never did agree with it, but that kind of shows you where things were. You could go years in the military, have people you served alongside in the most horrible situations, and never know their personal political preferences. So that changed somewhere along the way about the time that Barack Obama became president. And that also coincided with the social media revolution. So the question becomes, if you're an active duty military person, what, if anything, should you be saying about politics online and publicly, for that matter, in the conventional media? And my argument is that all of the DEI type policies that became acceptable in the Pentagon and in the military, where people in uniform were actively promoting those policies, those were highly politicized policies that they were promoting. They were putting themselves into politics in a very negative way by constantly talking about diversity as our strength when they didn't really mean diversity. What they meant was something else. And that became a core competency in the military. So, and it's not a core competency of the military. Our core competency is to close with and destroy our nation's enemies. And so, as Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump came in, they had to sort of undo that. And they have received all sorts of abuse from the Milblog community, from the military conventional media community, for all manner of things. And there are a number of active duty officers who are online who are speaking up and defending the necessity of what the warfighting, the return to warfighting focus really means. And those officers have gotten a lot of grief. People are saying, hey, you're politicized, you shouldn't be doing this. My assertion is that, number one, this is an effort to depoliticize the Department of War, to get all of this political crap out and focus on warfighting. But more importantly, when you are criticizing your president and your secretary of war, as we've seen, and you're in uniform, that's one thing. When you're supporting what your chain of command is doing as being right, that's something entirely different. I don't see a problem.
That's a big distinction.
The boss has it right. What we're doing in X situation is right, and here's why it's right. I have no problem with that. But when someone who is in uniform or is a federal government employee, for that matter, is actively speaking out in an extremely negative way to the people they work for, that's entirely different. So that's a really important distinction, and it's actually a hot-button issue right now, sort of in the military online community.
Yeah, no, that online military community, I mean, you're very familiar with it, but there are two.
It can be vicious.
Yes, yeah, and there's two competing sides out there on it too, correct?
Well, I mean, yes, there's the challenge right now is there's institutionally, from both the actual military itself, the various educational programs inside the military, and then all sort of the tangential things that surround the military, defense news, bloggers. There's folks who are heavily invested in where we've been the last 20 years, and they do not like change. I mean, that's the human nature, right? When you're invested in any sort of institutional conundrum, you don't want to change it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
That was the old Republican Party, which I called the corporate country club guys. They were kind of like, hey, this Trump guy, he's got to back off. We got not too much change because we have good cash flow right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I could see that happening in the military. That makes sense. Next subject I'm going to throw at you. Pope Leo, Secretary of State Rubio is headed over for a meeting with them. What's your take on the meeting?
Well, that's actually news to me. I didn't realize that. I think that that's great news. I think that Rubio is a Catholic, obviously, as am I, as are you. But I think he represents, or at least is perceived as being a very articulate moderate in the administration. Not that he is a moderate. He's very much in tune with what President Trump is doing, but he doesn't present things sort of in the inflammatory way that we're accustomed to with our dear president. And so in that regard, I think he's probably on a peace mission to try and, tamp down the flames of the controversy that started up between Pope Leo and President Trump. But, one of the things that's really, I was kind of shocked to figure out is that a lot of non-Catholics and some Catholics don't realize that it's okay to disagree with the Pope when he's speaking personally. The Pope's not ex cathedra. He's not saying, I'm from the chair, this is the official church doctrine. He's saying what he thinks, and you as a Catholic are not obligated to agree with him. In my opinion, he attacked the American political system without cause and for no reason. And I thought that what President Trump did was respond appropriately to someone who stepped his foot into the political arena. Once you step into the political arena, you can't hide behind the Bible. You're fair game. Now, if Trump had gone after him for talking about church doctrine or the Eucharist or whatever, I would be very angry at President Trump. But that's not what happened. So I think Rubio, again, I didn't realize that until you told me this. Rubio going there is going to try and ease the tensions.
Yeah, and that's always a good idea to do it. We live in a political environment. If you can tone things down, that's good. I do believe with this Pope is, I took when this lit up a couple of weeks ago, I was like, the Pope's from the spiritual world. It's not Islam where you come into the temporal world. I thought he shifted too fast into the day-to-day earthly problems that we were solving instead of just, war is bad, let's have peace. I thought he became way too specific on who he was targeting, even the military to a certain point. I really thought he was crossing into, I thought he crossed the line. That's what I thought.
No, I agree completely. And what bothered me about it more than anything else was a lot of the stuff he was saying actually runs counter to, or arguably runs counter to church doctrine. The just war theory from Thomas Aquinas and St. Augustine, he was speaking about wealth redistribution in a way that sounded very Marxist when we know that, official church doctrine is that Marxism is evil. So even as he was wandering into these secular issues, he was doing so in a way that runs against a lot of classic church doctrine. And so that was sort of my concern with him is don't go into politics, stay spiritual, and stay on target with what the Catechism of the Catholic Church says.
Yeah, no, that's how I felt at the time. And the just war doctrine is 1,500 years old. People brought that up. Here, I'll take you down a little bit of a conspiracy, which it could be nothing, but I did think it was unusual that David Axelrod, a political operative from Chicago, as the Pope is from Chicago, basically he's Obama's mouthpiece. And he was Obama's mouthpiece during Joe Biden, like, he's too old, it's time to go. David Axelrod got a meeting with him in early April. Now, he's not Catholic. And very big, pious, very big donors will have that one-on-one meeting with the Pope. And that makes sense because there's a lot of charities that the Catholic Church takes care of. And they do have very good Catholics that will, put a lot of their fortune to the church. But I thought that's where, for an individual like David Axelrod to get that meeting, I thought that was odd.
Oh, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory at all, Tom. I think there's no doubt. I mean, what other possible reason could he have gone to meet with the Pope other than to coordinate political issues? I mean, that guy is Obama's political strategist. That's what he does.
No doubt.
And I think the opportunity that the Obama Democrats saw was that they know that this Pope is very much against Trump's policies regarding illegal aliens and deportation, and he wants to basically have open borders and us sort of completely pay for anyone who comes here, and he sees that as an act of Christian charity. I don't want to debate whether or not that's right or wrong. I generally disagree with it, but that's what the Pope sees. And I think Axelrod went over there and said, "Hey, Pope, let me tell you something. If the American Catholics turn away from Donald Trump, we can win the midterms, we can win the presidency, and we'll reverse these immigration policies that are so sinful. So how about you give us a helping hand here, Pope? And, and I'm sure they didn't say it this way, but, let's rile up a little controversy. Let's get these American Catholics voting Democrat again. And because it'll help these illegal aliens that are so important to you." I'm quite certain that Axelrod showed up with every level of cynicism that I just described, and that the Pope's not stupid. I'm sure that he saw that it was cynical, but I'm sure he also knew that he wanted to achieve this goal regarding illegal aliens. And, oh, by the way, as soon as Axelrod came and went, we had the most radical Marxist cardinals and bishops in the American Catholic Church on 60 Minutes doing this whole piece about how evil the Trump administration is. That can't possibly be a coincidence. That was coordinated and planned, and I don't think that's a conspiracy thinking. I think that's rational thinking.
Yeah, I was just tempering to look neutral, and I wanted to hear what you had to say, and I agree with you. I always got to be careful with you. I don't want to go out there too on a limb because you're pretty good at telling you, like in a very accurate and polite way, like, you might be a little bit off on this stuff. So I temper myself as the host. All right. Okay. We'll move on from there. And I think people should understand Pope Leo spent a lot of his adult life in Peru, right? And that's going to influence you about immigration and the poor. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time down there. That's where, where he developed this sense of just open up your borders to everybody. It's not practical. And once again, it's you're crossing into an area that you probably should avoid. But we'll move on from that. 2028 is going to be here before we know it. And I'm wondering if where we're sitting today, and listen, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's like a giant chessboard, and we're not in on all the moves, right? But
right.
if you're looking in your crystal ball, what could the post-Trump world look like when he leaves? And what could it look like domestically? And you could have the positive, and you could give the negative. What do you think?
Well, I think we're at a point of inflection for, really one of the wildest periods of American presidential politics since probably like FDR died, and World War II is ending. And, what that was going to result in, who knew, right? You didn't know the Cold War was coming. You didn't know anything. You had this one president that had been there. Donald Trump himself was a change agent. But we've all sort of accepted the fact that he's a change agent at this point. But the question is can the coalition that he built survive with someone else running it? I mean, if you think about it, we're in this weird place in America where the Democrat coalition is the very rich, the educated urban population, and those who depend on the government. And the Republican coalition is the middle class, blue-collar workers, rural people. I mean, those are not the typical coalitions that we've seen in America. And so if all of a sudden Donald Trump's not running and we're getting J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, can they hold that coalition together the same way Trump did? And I just don't know that that's possible. What I'm hoping, though, is that the alternative becomes so over-the-top crazy that it sort of just forces that coalition to go together. I mean, you got this guy Plattner running for Senate in Maine, who's got a Nazi tattoo on him, who's like a vocal communist. You've got people like Mayor Bass in Los Angeles, who literally went to Cuba to study communist community organizing. I'm hoping that they'll keep pushing so far out of bounds that that's going to cause the coalition to stay together, because I just don't know who's going to lead it. J.D. Vance, I mean, I'm going to vote for Vance if he's the candidate, but I worry about some of the people he's connected with. We talked about Tucker already. I worry about the ease with which the Democrats might be able to paint him as something he's not, as an elitist, even though he came from this, West Virginia meth addict background.
Right.
And I'm increasingly fond of Marco Rubio. I mean, I think Rubio has all the right conservative thoughts, but he does it in a way that is, very measured and very appropriate. And he's Cuban, and so those gains that we saw with a lot of Latino voters for Trump, hopefully that would continue to be the case. But I don't know, Tom. We're going to be in a radically crazy time. We're going to be seeing the Mike Pence wing of the Republican Party trying to reassert dominance. And if in any way, shape, or form they're accommodated, that's going to drive off a lot of the people who became political because of Donald Trump. There's just so many elements here. It's really hard for me to make a prediction. What I'm hoping is that the economy, once we can get through this Iranian stuff here and the gas prices settle down, and by November we're in a very strong position, hopefully to win the midterms and continue the momentum that we have right now. But what's going to happen in 28 without Trump? it's a giant wild card.
No, it is. It's a giant wild card. I'll say Rubio has exceeded my expectations. I was never I wasn't not a fan or a big fan, but he's exceeded my expectations. And maybe DeSantis, kind of, I don't know if he can, where Trump is at high energy disruption. DeSantis is more of that cerebral, steady, maybe a calming. I don't know if he gets in the race, but like you said, who knows? It's an open race to see where this all lands. But the world, when Trump leaves, and he is going to be leaving, it's going to be right around the corner. It's a big thing when he does exit the stage. But we got to go to break. This is Cynical Publius. Colonel, thank you so much for coming on. It was a great hour. We covered a lot of stuff. We'll go to break and go check him out on X, Cynical Publius. We will be back after the break.
Says great progress has been made toward reaching a deal with Iran, and he is pausing Project Freedom to see if the agreement can be finalized. Iranian analyst Omid Bamarian says the program risked an escalation.
The U.S. attempt to escort ships didn't seem to be successful.
Caroline Rose is with the Soufan Center.
It signals an experiment that the United States is trying to conduct amidst this very fragile ceasefire to see really what it can get away with.
Jesse Mitchell, CBS News.
CBS News projects Vivek Ramaswamy will win the Republican nomination for governor of Ohio.
To call myself the Republican nominee for governor in the very state where I was born and raised, that is the American dream that makes American exceptionalism possible.
CBS News projects Amy Acton will win the Democratic nomination.
Together, we're going to make Ohio affordable so that we can pursue our dreams again, so that we can live a good life, so that we can age in place with dignity, and that we can be the community we all long to be.
A big win for President Trump in Indiana. 5 of the 7 Republican state senators whose opponents Trump endorsed have lost their primaries. 4 months ago, Indiana state legislators rejected Trump's demands to redraw the state's congressional district map. He said he would exact revenge. We're learning more about the possible source of the hantavirus infections that have killed 3 people on a luxury cruise ship that's now moored off the coast of West Africa. Here's CBS's Tom Hansen.
This cruise liner offered passengers a chance to stop at remote, untouched locations, regions where hantavirus is also common in the wildlife. And now the World Health Organization tells CBS News the infections could have possibly started during one of those nature excursions.
At least 4 passengers are sick. All of the 150 passengers are isolating in their rooms. The Department of Education has opened an investigation into a private women's college in Massachusetts over its admission policy for transgender women. CBS's Stacey Lynn has that.
Federal officials say they'll review whether Smith College complies with Title IX, which governs sex-based protections in education and is tied to federal funding. The investigation will examine issues including campus housing, athletics, and access to programs designated for women.
U.S. stock futures are up across the board at this hour. In Seoul, South Korea's benchmark Kospi Index closed up almost 7%, hitting a record high. This is CBS News.
Join Adriana Diaz and Kelly O'Grady for the perfect start to your weekend. Ease into your Saturday with CBS Saturday Morning on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
Your heart's rhythm is what keeps you moving. Your heart. Don't take chances. DemandDeborah.org.
If you're in the Philadelphia area and caring for a loved one with Medicaid, get paid starting today. Freedom Care has already helped over 162,000 families get the care they deserve, with 97% satisfaction and more than 8,000 five-star reviews. If you have Medicaid, you need to hear this. You may qualify to choose a caregiver you already trust, a family member or friend, and they can start getting paid. No agencies, no strangers, just someone you know, helping with meals, medication, bathing, mobility, and more. This service isn't for later, it's for right now. It's 100% free to you through Medicaid, and caregivers get paid right away after their shift. Find out if you qualify today. Call 267-535-2174. That's 267-535-2174. Don't wait. Call 267-535-2174 now. Again, that's 267-535-2174. Freedom Care. Get paid to care starting now.
Does your home never seem to have enough hot water? With the Bradford White Infinity Tankless Water Heater, you'll never run out. The Infinity Tankless heats as much water as you need, whenever you need it. Plus, they're super efficient to save you energy and money. And like all Bradford White water heaters, they're built to be the best for years of reliable performance. So ask your plumbing professional about going tankless with a Bradford White Infinity Series Tankless Water Heater. Visit BradfordWhite.com today to learn more.
WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Piazza Premium Automobile Studios.
Powering your drive with 10 brands and 20 locations.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Tom Azelby. On Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Welcome back to the Late Show tonight in Philadelphia on 1210 WPHT. This is Tom Azelby. I will be with you tomorrow night from 10 to 1 a.m. and then I'll be back on Thursday night to do it all again. And I'll keep bringing on some of these interesting guests. Like my next one is Brian Parker. He went to Duke. He must have had decent grades. Duke's a very good school. He was a tackle on the football team, and he was just drafted a couple of weeks ago as a 6th-round draft pick. He's 22 years old. He was born in Mount Holly in the Philadelphia area, and he grew up in Cincinnati. Brian Parker, welcome to the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you. Let me tell you, you're one of the few. Like you talk about of all the kids that get to play football, and Pop Warner, high school, college, and then you get drafted in the NFL. That's it. That's a big thing for you and your family. What was that like?
Yeah, I think it's something like the 0.001% or some crazy number like that. But yeah. But just growing up playing football, starting in 3rd grade, my dad was my coach growing up, and he played football at Bucknell. So just having him as a role model and growing up through the years playing and just having fun, and it's all about having fun because at the end of the day, it's a game, and now I've made it into a lifestyle and a career path. So it's exciting. Along the way, I've met so many great people, and went to a great all-boys Catholic high school in Cincinnati called St. X, won a state championship there, and a lot of great memories there. And then at Duke, went to a school that had been struggling to be pretty good at football, but over my 4 years, won 35 games, which I think is most in program history, and finished off with a championship
Duke came
win.
on. Yep.
Yeah, and so we won that championship game, and that was a lot of fun. And then now here we are getting drafted in the NFL, so getting ready to start that journey.
Yeah, well, that is good stuff. And this is when the real work begins for you, right? I mean, you've been working, through college. You had to go to the combine, I'm sure. Did you go to one of those combine camps to train before you went, or did you do that training on your own?
No, I went out to a place in Malibu, California, and trained out there with a group of about 20 guys from various schools. All got drafted, so a really good group of guys out there. But, yeah, we worked hard and kind of really locked in, isolated ourselves before going to that combine to run fast, jump high, bench a lot, and try and move the needle in your direction.
Yeah, it's I don't know if a lot of people know this. The diehard football people know it, that's for sure. But now that there are these camps, because like when you're lifting, you're running, whatever you're doing, like every lift counts, every second counts at that combine. So now they have these kind of special training camps, which young potential draftees go out to train, even if it's to sign, not get drafted, but sign a free agent agreement. So, and how long does that camp last, Brian? How long are you in? How long will you go for? Like, give a little background on that.
Yeah, I was in California from our championship game was December 15th, I believe, or December 10th. And then I did not play in our bowl game. And so I was out there training starting December 15th. And I was out there all the way till the combine, when was the combine? It's all blurred out. But I did take a break for a week in January because I had to go play in the Shrine East-West Shrine Bowl game. So one of those senior showcase games. Yeah, so played in that, showcase. And then I was right back out. So, but yeah, it's a different kind of training than you usually do in college because now everybody's looking at the 40 and your running time, so you're trying to become as fast and agile as possible. So it becomes more of like an Olympic sprinter training, really working on your running mechanics versus when you're in college or where I am right now. I'm back to more powerlifting, Olympic like cleans and power cleans and stuff like that, and position heavy stuff. Whereas during that time, you're really focusing on. I've never run so much in my life, just trying to get ready for a 40-yard dash.
And we're going to talk about that 40-yard dash, and I'm going to we'll talk about that in a minute. Here's another question I have for you. Mm-hmm. When did you say to yourself, like, you might have thought, like, listen, you're growing up, you got dads who'll say to you, the local cop, the local coach would be like, wow, this kid's good. This Brian Parker, this kid has some talent. But at what point in your career, and maybe it happens in high school, it happened in college, or maybe when you were a kid, you were like, I know I can play in that league. Did you ever have that moment when you say, I know I can play in that league? Because that is a big mental thing when you make that decision to yourself that you could play at such a level.
Obviously, it's a dream since you started playing because everybody grows up watching, the Birds on Sunday or once we moved to Cincinnati, started going to a lot of Bengals games with my friends because that's big in Cincy. But it was always a dream. But when I really kind of realized that it was a very real possibility and something that I can definitely accomplish was probably my junior year. After my junior season, I went the whole season without giving up a sack that year at tackle, and then got a lot of accolades and stuff. And so that's kind of when you realize, okay, starting to become one of the top players at the college level. So, and then that fed into this year. I was confident and went out there and ended up being an All-American in college. So that kind of is what solidifies your belief. And then, you go into it and you bet on yourself. And, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in that realm, trying to figure out where you're going to go and stuff. And
right.
But all in the end, you just need the shot and get the phone call, and so that's what we got. And just excited for the opportunity. And you never know if you can really make it, but you got to have that belief in yourself. And so I'll go out there and do everything in my ability to make sure I last as long in that league as possible.
And you felt that like that was your junior year of college where you're like, I might have this. Meaning that's kind of like when it clicked in your head. I'll get my brother who was drafted. He was I believe a 10th round draft choice. This is back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. It was a whole different thing for the combine. You trained by yourself. He got drafted out of Harvard and he made the Bills. But his time came when he went to a Jets game his sophomore year of college, right? And he got into the locker room or where the families came out, where the players came out to the families, and he saw a linebacker come out, and he walked up and stood next to him, like from a size thing, and he kind of measured himself up to him. And, he's a sophomore in college, he's 20, maybe he was 19, it could have been his freshman year. But he looked at that player, the Jet, and I forget his name right now, but my brother will never forget his name. And he said to himself at that point, I think I can play in this league. And like he said, from that day forward was when he made that conscious decision. So, and I think that could be in anything in life. It doesn't have to be in football, but it's once that you get that thing that twists in your head and in your heart, and you say, you know what, I think I can do it. It still might not work out for you. Obviously, you're drafted and you're on your way, and now you got to do the next level of making the squad. For your family, how excited is it for your whole family? Because obviously, your cousin here down in Jupiter, who's a good friend of mine, he was so excited about, the potential of what could happen. It's kind of like your whole community, your high school friends, your family, your neighborhood. It's like they all come a little bit a part of it. They all take a little piece of you, which is a great thing, by the way. And it's great for you too. So what was that like for your family that day and just leading up to it?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, having lived in Cincinnati for so long and going to high school there, that whole community is very tight. Cincinnati's a big city or a medium-sized city, but it feels very small. Everybody's super friendly, nice Midwestern town. And so just the outpour from the community that I've gotten since going back is awesome. But then, for my family, it takes a village to get anybody anywhere. And so just everybody, having supported me over the years, and, even if it is Uncle Greg down there in Jupiter or whoever it may be over the years, just helping mold me and give me life experiences to get where I am today. So yeah, like I said, it's that very small percentage that actually makes it so it is fun for a lot of people. Everybody, I'd say most Americans watch the NFL, so to say like, hey, I actually know that guy, or like that's my cousin. People take a little pride in that, and that's fun. And football, no matter where you're from or who you believe in or whatever's going on in your life, it's kind of a common ground for everybody to come together and either root for a team or a player. And so I think that just gives people a lot of investment, and they feel proud about having been a part of that journey.
No, that's really cool. And I want to give people a little bit. You were a right tackle, and it looks like the NFL, because they're going to use you as like a versatile lineman, but it looks like they might move you to center. Is that what does that look like that's the plan for you, or you don't know yet?
Yeah, I played left and right tackle in college, but I think I was 6'5" at the combine, and my arms were I think they ended up being 33 inches long, so just a little bit on the shorter side for tackle, a little undersized. So a lot of guys predict me just moving inside to kind of take away the size disparities. But, my big thing that a lot of teams like is I have film at all 5 positions, and that's very versatile because, getting the job done when you're trying to make a roster, you can have one player that plays one positions, or you could have me that plays all 5. So it helps teams and make decisions and feel more comfortable drafting a player like myself. So that's kind of my
I was going to say that's big. That because they make decisions on how many people they can take on the team and who can do more than their one position or one job. So that makes complete sense that you're so versatile. How do you feel about snapping a football?
I actually played center in high school and was originally recruited to Duke to play center, and then a coaching staff change, and they moved me around. So that's another thing. I went into college having been a center, never really playing tackle, and then they moved me to tackle when I get there, and I become an All-American and a draft pick. So it's another thing that teams see is this kid that you can plug and place him and give him a challenge, and he steps up. So.
And I want to let the listeners know, and if I'm wrong on this, you can correct me. So I'll give some of your stats. You're 6'5", you're 310 pounds. At the combine, you benched 225 pounds, 29 reps. That's very impressive. And what I found even more impressive, at that size, you run a 5.14 40. Is that correct?
Yep. And my
that's like a freight train.
The big one for offensive line too is your 10-yard split, because that shows explosivity. And I I think out of the 60 whatever guys, I think I was number 8 or number 7.
Wow. That's that's good. And I mean, that's how it's just not going out and playing the game. It's like at this combine, they're measuring such detailed type of performance categories of what you can do, and everything means something.
Yeah, and what most people don't realize is that the combine is not just like a one-day thing. You show up. It's a week-long event where you're there, and the NFL and the teams put you through a lot of interviews and stressful situations to kind of see how you react to different adversities, and can you still go out there and perform when you've been in Indianapolis all week and you might be tired and been sleeping in a hotel bed that's not yours, so can you still go out there, compete, and make some money?
Yeah, no, it's I think a lot of people don't know how much really goes into this. And you got an economics degree out of Duke, which is a great school. The other question is you're from Cincinnati, so it's always good to have that. You come from a great school, because football is a game that you'll only play for a limited amount of time, and then you go out and do something else, which is great. What a foundation you have coming out of the NFL. What I think is great, you're going back to your old neighborhood. You're going back to Cincinnati. You're going back to the Cincinnati Bengals to play where you grew up. You can live at home if you want. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is very cool. I got a lot of family in South Jersey. This is where we're originally from, and grew up going to the shore every year. But I've been in Cincinnati now for a while, and I have a really good group of friends, and and my sister lives out there still, so it's going to be fun. And it's, like I said earlier, a really tight knit community, really small feel city. So it's very fun to go back. The Cincinnati Bengals are huge there. A lot of pride in that, in the community. So as I said, I remember always going to the games with all my friends, and it's a fun thing that pretty much feels like the whole city's always down there on a Sunday afternoon getting ready to cheer on the Bengals. So it's going to be fun.
No,
and
that's
outreach
cool.
I've reached has been pretty amazing.
No, that's great. And do you still make it to LBI during the summers?
Oh yeah, and you'll find me in Beach Haven every 4th of July.
All right, that's good to hear. And I heard you love to fish, which there's a lot of LBI guys that come down to Jupiter too, besides your cousin. But there's a connection between LBI and Jupiter. Great fishing down here in Jupiter. And I'm assuming you do a lot of fishing up there in LBI. That's what I heard is one of your hobbies. Is that true?
Yeah, big time hobby. My family's been in LBI for, I think, 5 or 6 generations now, fishing and working the bay and tuna fishing and marlin fishing offshore. So, there's a lot of family pride in that, and that's kind of my happy place outside of football and everything. Is just getting out there on the water and fishing and being out of cell service and just out in nature. So that's a lot of fun doing that. And me, my uncles, my dad, and cousins, we all do it together. So it's fun.
That's it's a great thing to do, and it'll kind of give you a break from all the hard work that you got to do in the NFL. Brian Parker, I want to congratulate you and all the Parkers from Mount Holly to Cincy to LBI, and of course your cousin Greg in Jupiter. But I want to thank you for coming on, and I really want to wish you good luck in your NFL career.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun talking, and I very much appreciate it.
You got it. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you.
Philadelphia Children's Alliance, our city's only child advocacy center, is holding their annual Bear Affair fundraiser on Thursday, May 7th at the National Constitution Center. The Philadelphia Children's Alliance has been supporting victims of child sex abuse and their families for over 35 years, and they are one of the most critical services in our city. From forensic interviews to medical exams to mental health therapy and prevention programs, this organization brings children hope, healing, and justice. Get your tickets today at bearaffair.org.
If you're in the Philadelphia area and caring for a loved one with Medicaid, get paid starting today. Freedom Care has already helped over 162,000 families get the care they deserve, with 97% satisfaction and more than 8,000 five-star reviews. If you have Medicaid, you need to hear this. You may qualify to choose a caregiver you already trust, a family member or friend, and they can start getting paid. No agencies, no strangers, just someone you know, helping with meals, medication, bathing, mobility, and more. This service isn't for later, it's for right now. It's 100% free to you through Medicaid, and caregivers get paid right away after their shift. Find out if you qualify today. Call 267-535-2174. That's 267-535-2174. Don't wait. Call 267-535-2174 now. Again, that's 267-535-2174. Freedom Care. Get paid to care starting now.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Dial # law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Now you can listen to Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the iHeartRadio app.
Welcome back to the Late Show on 1210 WPHT. This is Tom Azelby. I will be with you tomorrow night from 10 to 1. I'll be with you on Thursday night, 10 to 1. And then I'm back Saturday morning for the Tom Azelby Show every Saturday at 8 to 9. So hopefully you can join me then. But I would think the people that are listening, Sean, you would like the people that do listen at night are probably not the people that listen in the morning. Can we make that assumption?
Yeah, it's usually people working the late shift, the night shift. They're either at the gas station, they're riding the trucks, moving the products,
the third shift people.
Stuff. Bedrock.
Yeah, yes, that makes sense. So it's so I will say to you people that have been listening for the late show for the last few nights, I won't expect you on Saturday morning. So I'll let you off the hook for that. So here's something that I didn't find interesting. I know it's been happening, not that I would know because I'm not young anymore. But they're saying young people are not having sex, and there was a book that came out by Deborah So, which is called Sextinction, which I think is a great name to address a problem. And it just that young people appear not to be having sex as frequently as people that grew up in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s and the 90s. And let's be honest, back, let me say in the heyday of the 80s and the 90s that I lived in, you were going out to meet women and women were going out to meet men. And the more meetings that you had, there was definitely more sex going on. But the guys between the ages of 22 and 34, the statistics are showing that at one point of it, it's gone from 9% who haven't had sex in a year up to 24%. So that's a really big statistic. And so this book addresses, what could be the reason. And then I'm going to give you my view on it. Of course, I have an opinion. That's what I do here. One thing that is going on is virginity rates are higher today. Now, I don't know if that's because of moral, religious, or is the virginity rates are higher because guys don't have as much opportunity. Men don't have as much opportunity because they're really focusing on the guys here. Another thing is more people are living at home. It's more expensive. Younger people are not drinking as much. I think they're doing more weed. I'm not 100% sure, but I would think. But drinking seems to lead to sex, where I think weed kind of it's not like drinking. So, and then the other thing is you got the phone and porn. So that's another thing that's reducing how often people are having sex. There seems to be more anxiety with young people. And then they throw in this endocrine disruptors. That means all the plastics we use, all the lotions, the shampoos, that even food, because it's touched with rubber gloves, that somehow there's some scientific evidence that this could be lowering testosterone in young men. So you have, a few different things, but here's things that I think in the culture that are affecting the sexual interaction between men and women, in younger ages. I'm not talking about married people here. I'm talking about single people. So one thing in the culture I've heard from young men is there's a fear of false accusation effect. That means if you take an awkward run at a girl, and listen, back in the day, you could blow yourself up by going to talk to a girl and they're like, get lost or whatever. And then you might, chicken out for the rest of the night, or you might come back and see someone else later on. But in this age of social media, there's a big risk and not a lot of reward if the female that you took a run at then kind of starts talking about it over social media. And a lot of young males, that is concerning for them, makes them nervous. I don't blame them. It's tough enough to go up to a woman and then, get rejected is one thing, but then have it on her talking about you on social media, and who knows, her friend might have taken a picture of you. I think that is very discouraging. So I don't know if that's in the book, because when I was doing a review of the book online, they didn't give any of this type of perspective. So you're getting the Tom Azelby perspective, and it's not scientific. It's just what I think. Another thing I think is cultural messaging, that, toxic masculinities, boys' behaviors are bad, girl power. You hear I don't hear this a lot, but when I was doing my research, that guy's trash. But overall, that type of vibe, that cultural vibe, I actually think it deters young men from taking a risk, trying to engage. So that's part of it. The other thing is, they say the dating apps, and this is statistical. The women, when they go on dating apps, they rule out 80% of the males, just because they're not having that personal meeting with them. Where they're like, if I see them on the web and I read their resume, I see them on a dating app and I see their resume on it. It's a lot different if someone walks up to them, says something to them, compliments them about something. It's the way they walk. It's the way they approach, their physicality, or whatever. That all gets lost on the dating apps. So what happens is 20% of the males are getting all the attention on the dating apps, which a lot of young people are going to. And then you got a pool of 80% of the guys that aren't getting the hits, because life is about numbers. So it's I feel sorry for the younger guys out there, and the women for that matter too. It's a more difficult way to commingle, as they say. But I think it's an interesting book. I think it's an interesting study. And you know what? Maybe things will change. Maybe we'll start getting rid of these, looking at the phones every 5 seconds. That's got to be a distraction too. How can you make eye contact with someone or start joking with someone? Everyone's got their head in their phone. And that's not helping the relationships of young men and young women who, are trying to get it on. So that's my little observation on that. Okay, the next thing I read today, which I found interesting. Wisdom flexing is the new trend. And basically what that is, books are becoming a new status symbol. And I'll be the first one. I'm a big reader, but I will tell you, with Reels and the internet and all the information out there, setting aside time to read books is difficult. And with the younger generation, I don't know how they're going to pass the English SAT anymore. They're not reading books. And that's really where you pick up all that vocabulary that they ask you on the SAT. And it's really with the generation that I would say it's like 17 and younger. And I'm doing that just from my own kind of family and life when the phones just started dominating and no one is reading books. But with this wisdom flexing and culture can change a lot of stuff. So books are coming back in as like a status symbol. If you're reading a book, you can talk about a book. Another thing is these Substacks, and even Cynical Publius was talking about it, that in the Substacks where people want to write longer, thoughtful stuff, meaning that has more depth, that is a little more serious, a little more further research, really flushing out a subject. And they say that's kind of becoming cool. And let me tell you, culture can change a lot of things when a culture starts believing in things. And I know this is a crazy comparison, but I'm going to make it because it's late night radio. My understanding, even with the crack epidemic, and I remember in the 90s in North Philadelphia, I used to drive up there for business reasons, but it was crazy how crack had just taken over some of the urban neighborhoods. And law enforcement had something to do with it, but they really said crack was so bad. And there was like terms about, prostitution. If you were, I think the word was crack whore, crack this, crack that the culture in some of the urban areas were like, you don't want to get involved with crack. And actually that helped the cultural feeling of don't get involved with it. Look what can happen to you. More than law enforcement, the culture said, listen, this is something you should try to avoid. So maybe that's a very extreme comparison, but this is some of the new things that they're predicting that is kind of changing the culture. And I'll give you more kind of neutral things, but people are getting into are discussing how animals evolve. They're looking at forgotten inventions from like the 19th century, like gadgets. Like there was a hat that automatically tipped to women, but there's kind of this niche movement to get more involved with hands-on stuff, deeper stuff, thinking, which is probably good because this living in the real world of just scrolling through reels, and listen, I can be guilty of it too. It's not helping anyone. And the kids got to get back to reading books. I'm giving a lecture to all the kids who don't listen to the show and they're all in bed at this point. But parents, if you're listening, grandparents, if you're listening, you got to get them reading books. I should listen to my own medicine. I'm going to take a break and we'll be back. I got a few other, kind of cultural things to cover before we get out of here at 1:00. So we'll go to break and we'll be right back.
For 100 years, Edelman's in Jenkintown has been the name families trust when it's time to sell gold, silver, and coins. A fourth-generation family-owned business built on fairness, honesty, and treating every customer with true respect. At Edelman's, you'll always get a clear, no-pressure offer. Their best offer first. Sell your gold jewelry, bullion, or coins with confidence at Edelman's. Visit edelmanscoins.com or call 215-572-6480. Edelman's, where fairness has been our family tradition for 100 years.
Living here is about more than just the headlines. It's the new restaurant opening in Fishtown. It's the playoff energy at the bank. It's the festivals that make your neighborhood feel like home.
KYW News Radio brings you the pulse of the Delaware Valley. From service journalism that solves problems to stories that celebrate our culture, we cover the life you're actually living.
Authentic, local, factual. KYW News Radio, Philadelphia's most trusted news source.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-894-7722. That's 800-894-7722. Again, 800-894-7722.
You've probably heard all those ads for life insurance. Just a few dollars a day, apply online in minutes, no medical exam. Simple, easy, and cheap, right? Now you're thinking, maybe I should get a quote. Well, smart thinking. Everyone should have life insurance. But here's what they don't tell you. Those few dollars a day rates, they're for young people in perfect health. That's why everyone calls Big Lou the 50 to 60-year-old not-so-perfect candidate. Like you. You take prescription meds and you're overweight. Winner, winner, fried chicken dinner. Well, Big Lou works with life insurance companies that want people like you with no surprises after you apply. In fact, if you're a 50-year-old guy with a few health glitches, Lou could probably find you $1 million of term life coverage for about $200 a month. So, yeah, you need life insurance. But unless you're young and healthy, you gotta call Big Lou because he's like you, older, heavier, and on meds, too. Get a quote right now at 800-700-6898, 800-700-6898, or biglou.com.
Free speech lives here with Kale and Company weekday mornings on Odyssey's #1 talk station, 1210 WPHT.
Welcome back to the Late Show on 1210 WPHT in Philadelphia. We're going into the last few minutes. Not few minutes. We got some time. Matter of fact, we have some time. I hear on the line is Barry Sable from the Barry Sable Show every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. You can hear Barry Sable, and I hear he's calling in. He is a night owl. Barry Sable, are you with me?
What are you doing, my friend? How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I had a lot of interviews tonight, so I've been working while you've been relaxing at home tonight.
Only Tom Azelby could go from Saturday mornings 1 hour, flip the switch to 3 hours, not once but 4 times in a week. I don't know of anybody else that could do that, my brother. Only you.
Well, I'm glad it's not 5 days. I got 4 days, but it's definitely, I'll tell you, it's definitely a different vibe at night. It's your cadence or what is it? Your rhythm or whatever they call it. But like I do sense it. It's a show in the morning is definitely different than a show at night. It's
of course.
I'm just saying it's definitely a different feeling. And you do a morning show, but I'm just telling you, it definitely feels a little different. I wanted to ask you, did you hear the Joe Pistone interview?
I didn't get a chance, believe it or not. I had company, and they left shortly, and I didn't get a chance. So please accept my apology for that, because Saturday mornings, I don't miss a show from 8 to 9 in the morning. Tell me, how was that interview?
No, you know what? I think he's a fascinating guy. I mean, he was 5.5 years. He actually became he didn't become, that was part of the story because he had a moral compass, but he was part of the Bonanno family. They liked him. He was one of those guys that they kept promoting him. And in the end, they had to pull him because they started, figuring out things. And one thing I didn't get to, but you can appreciate this. So once the FBI has to make a decision, because now it's too dangerous. And I think they had so much dirt on everybody now, right? Like by the time the FBI, 5.5 years, and he would go months without seeing his young family and his wife. But I think you'll find this interesting. Once they pulled him, there was a guy, Sonny Black, and Sonny Black was he was like a captain, right? Obviously a made man, and he ran the crew. And once the Bonanno family found out that Donnie Brasco wasn't Donnie Brasco, he was an FBI agent, they would kill Sonny Black. They would kill Sonny Black soon after that. So like these were. A guy lived in a high stakes game for 5.5 years. You talk about having your anxiety under control. Crazy stuff, but very interesting. And I think to myself, a guy with his personality that could get. He said it was because he grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, and he kind of. There were guys that were street guys, and he kind of learned like when to talk, when not to talk, when to listen, and like all of that, they kind of appreciated. That's what got him in on the inside where they could keep bringing him up. But, I like
I'll catch that interview on the replay. What I want to do, though, is something a little different that normally isn't done on radio. I want you, because I know what it's like to prepare for a Sunday morning show. I know how much time I put in. Explain to your audience how much time you actually put in to do a 3-hour show. What is that like for you? Pull back the drapes for us to know what Tom Azelby, not once, but 4 nights you're doing this week. What is that like to go get guests? Where do you find guests? And is it hard for you to get guests?
Okay, so the guest thing is a good question because that's where a lot of the work comes. Because things to talk about, because I'm into politics, I read a lot. I'm into, different things going on in the world. Like I like to read a lot. So if you're a reader, you always have something to talk about. So that's one part of the show. That's one part of the show. As far as the guest, as far as getting the guests, a lot of it, some of it, I would say is having if you have a personal network, like for example, how would I get? Okay, I'll give you Joe Pistone. I'll talk about him, Donnie Brasco.
That's what I want to know. I want your listeners. How do you find these guys? Secure them, get them to stay up at 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night.
Okay, so Joe Pistone, Donnie Brasco was on Joe Rogan's show this past summer, and people raved about it. And obviously, he flew down to see Joe Rogan, went into his studio. So how do I get him to come on a late night show in a local market in Philadelphia? So the way I do that is I have a friend that I played football with in college. He's a good buddy of mine. I knew that his family were friends with Joe Pistone's family. They were friends for decades, even when he was working undercover. So my relationship with him, going to college with him, playing football, keeping that relationship over the years, he's the one that delivered him. So now if you talk about Cynical Publius, how did I get him tonight? Is because I've been a follower. I follow him on X. I've communicated with him on X. And believe me, he's got, 340,000 followers or whatever. I love his resume. And I knew he was a Philadelphia guy, or at least he was from South Jersey. So I connected with him on X, exchanged messages. Boom, that's how I got him. The kid that just got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. His dad was my healthcare broker for 2 companies that I had. And he's a good friend of mine, and we had mutual friends. And not only is he from South Jersey, he has a place down here in Jupiter. I find out his nephew got drafted. I want to talk to a kid who just got drafted into the NFL, which is such a big deal. Like, it's a big deal for your neighbors, for your friends, for your high school. And I've told you this before. My family went through it when my brother got drafted. It's a big community thing when someone gets drafted. So how did I get the kid? That's his cousin. So I say to my buddy down here, I go, is there any way you could get your cousin to come on the radio? So networking is key. So I hope that answers your question.
That was a great answer. And that's the truth. Because I'm amazed, during the week, I'm hustling. Like today, I was with Senator McCormick. They're doing a very big project down off of the 3100 block of Passyunk Avenue. I knew he was in town, so I went down. I go to say a quick hello, and the next thing you know, I speak to his people. Could you put me in touch with this person to come on the air, this person to come on the air? And they always come through. But for you, that's meeting one-on-one. But for you dig these people up like out of the graves. You find these people, and I told you off the air a million times, I'm amazed how you do it, because there's an art and a skill to that. Because most people really want to go on and pre-record earlier. If you could catch somebody and go into the studio and the engineers at 12:10 will make time for you at 4 or 5 o'clock, it's easier. But to catch somebody at 12 o'clock at night, that takes a big effort. Someone really has to do you a favor to do that.
No, absolutely. You put you got to pull some favors, and it is true. The later the show, it's harder to do. There's no doubt about that. And now that you brought it up, I want to say who the guests are for tomorrow night, if you don't mind, Barry. And Kate, and if you don't have any friends over, you might be able to hear the early interviews. So
don't get me in trouble.
So who do I have tomorrow night? So tomorrow night I have the crime podcaster, Manny Grossman, who is an expert on the Son of Sam. But what he's going to come on to talk about tomorrow night is there's all these serial killers, right? And now the whole conspiracy, you know how people love conspiracies now? It's like the biggest thing in the world. Late night radio is full of conspiracies. Manny Grossman is saying that the conspiracy theorists are all coming out of these well-known serial killers and trying to prove to everybody that they weren't the serial killer. That's something that's going on, obviously, on the internet and all the conspiracy chat rooms and stuff, that the serial killers really weren't guilty, and there's all these clues showing you that they didn't do it. So that's going to be one guest. The other guest I'm looking forward to is Mike Madden. Mike Madden is John Madden's son, the NFL broadcaster, the Oakland Raiders coach. He bought Fighters Heaven up in Pennsylvania, which was Muhammad Ali's training camp. And you can take a tour of it. They have events there. Plus, I'm going to talk to him about what was it like being a kid down on the sidelines with his father, who was a legend, and that Oakland Raiders team back in the 70s. Mike Madden, as a kid, was running around down there with those Raiders back in the day, and he actually ended up playing college football himself. Here's something else is tomorrow night, which is going to be interesting, is the Alpha School. This is an AI school, okay? They teach the kids in AI. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but listen, there's a Harvard study that just came out. Kids can learn 2 to 3 times more from AI. There's proctors in the room, but they're not the teachers. They're just coaches. And
great stuff, kids, man. Great stuff.
So anyway, that's tomorrow night. What do you got coming up on Sunday?
Well, I mean, let's see. This Sunday, believe it or not, I have Peter Mimo that is joining me. He is one of the original, the Barry Sable Show with Friends, one of the originals that I had. So I convinced him to come into the studio. Yep, he's one of the friends. It's a reunion, yes. But here's what I want to ask you. know, I'm always going to reel you in and pull you into politics. I want to know what bothers you. Truthfully, what's going on today? And as an example, the transparency bothers me of what goes on in this government today. And what I asked McCormick was the transparency of what happens, like, say, with this administration. You know that I'm a Trump guy, and there isn't anything that he can almost do wrong. But, they did tell us that America is full of energy. Well, if America is full of energy, then why do we have to worry about $5 gas prices when in the reality is all we have to do is pump energy out of the ground? Why are we going through that? And he said to me, because of permitting. I mean, so I don't know if I went for that exactly or not, and he's my buddy. And second of all, we were told back, in Iran that they were about to be able to conclude and put together a nuclear bomb. So we see that they've been in war, or we've been in war now for 10 or 11 weeks, and obviously that hasn't come to be. Does the transparency of the government on both sides of the aisle unnerve you in any which way?
Not with the Trump administration. I think what's going on with oil prices right now, it is a global market. The permits, you don't just pull the oil out of the ground immediately. It's a timing issue. And from what I'm hearing, and this should make you happy, Within 6 to 7 months, we're right now. I thought I read an article today or saw a headline that we are the largest producer right now. But it's got to be, you got to get the permits, which are now being reinstated, which the past administration completely restricted. So, and it takes time to do surveys, look at the rigs, get them in. But my understanding, in 6 or 7 months, we won't have to worry what's coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. Like, meaning that's how much oil is going to be produced. So I think it's more of a timing thing right now. You know, we got to kind of get the shelves full of inventory. Some is in the factory, some is on the truck, and then the guys on the loading dock have to bring it in. I think it's more of a timing thing. I'm not sure what you were asking on the nuclear
uranium
thing.
Overseas in Iran. I mean, we were led to believe, like Bush told us at one time, that there was weapons of mass destruction, and that didn't come to be. We all know that these guys in Iran were pursuing a nuclear bomb. So we know this, and this is the fact. And I think that the timing was great. You know, to me, what I'm concerned, as call it a righty, is what's going to happen in the midterms. And, listen, people say it's not a big deal. He'll accomplish much within the next 6 months or so. We'll see what happens at the midterms. Then, they're going to try and impeach him again, and then everything comes to a halt. And I think that we are moving forward at rapid speed. I love what this guy's doing globally, and you know that. We talk about this off the air all the time. He's on the money, and he's way ahead of the game, and people don't understand. I will tell you something that unnerved and bothered me. So I go to see McCormick today, and I had the right address, the wrong location, I'll tell you. So I stopped, and there were hard hat guys, and I said, do you have any idea where this is taking place? And both of those guys, there was like 4 guys there, actually. 4 of them all said, screw McCormick and the hell with Donald Trump. That bothers me. There's a lot of animosity in this country.
Barry,
right now,
we gotta leave it there. But if you want more, Barry's gonna be finishing what his thoughts were at the end of this show. You're gonna get a lot more Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. It was great being with you tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night, and we have some more great guests coming for you. We'll talk later.
Delaware County invites you to join your neighbors for a special celebration on Thursday, May 7th, as we celebrate America's 250th birthday and 75 years of prayer for America with the annual National Day of Prayer. We are blessed to live in a nation founded upon God's word and prayer, and where, by public law, on the first Thursday of May, our president calls our citizens to pray. From capitals to courthouses to campuses, millions of Americans will gather in thousands of local prayer gatherings to glorify God among the nations as we continue seeking Him in all generations. So be part of this historic moment. Come join your neighbors at the Delaware County Prayer Celebration on Thursday, May 7th, starting at 11:30 a.m. at the beautiful Rose Tree Park in Media, PA. There will be free pizza and free ice cream and lots of prayer. Find more info at nationaldayofprayerdelco.com and on our Facebook page at Delaware County NDP. In this significant and historic year,